Chapter 2161. Luli flew out from the beast's body and put away the mountain. He looked at Patriarch 2's familiar face and the stewards at the battleground. Surprisingly, he felt calmer. 5/4 tribulation, heaven immortals, and hundreds of warriors of the third tribulation. Luli could not defeat them on his own. He couldn't even defeat 2, let alone 5/4 tribulation heaven immortals. When he was caught, there were only 2 outcomes, death or capture. Luli was not so nervous now that there was no way out. Before he came to the third heaven, he had been prepared for death. He had many enemies at the third heaven, such as Phoenix Empress and the Zhang family. There were too many powerful warriors at the third heaven. It was highly likely that he would die. Calmly, Luli looked at Patriarch 2 and said, "Patriarch 2, it is not that I don't want to leave without saying goodbye. It is just that you won't let me. I can't do anything about God of Eagle's death. If I don't kill him, he will have to kill me. At the end of the day, you are responsible for God of Eagle's death. Do you think I will kill him if you don't send him to kill me? Don't say these meaningless things." Patriarch 2's eyes were burning with anger. He said coldly, "Are you going to surrender, or do you want us to beat you half to death? Then take you back." Luli smiled lightly and said, "I want to know, if I surrender, where will you send me? You will know." Patriarch 2 sneered and said, "Blood for blood. Don't you know this?" Luli understood. It seemed that the heaven's blood eagle race had come to him, and Patriarch 2 was going to give him to them. But it would be the same no matter who he gave him to. It would be hard for him to survive. "I can surrender." Luli thought about it and said, "I have 2 conditions. They're not outrageous. If you don't agree, I will fight you even at the cost of my life." "Why do you have to make conditions?" Patriarch 2 sneered and said, "It will be a piece of cake for us to take you down." "Really? Why don't you do it?" Luli said in a tit-for-tat manner, "I can kill God of Eagle. Believe it or not, I could drag some people down with me if I risk my life." Patriarch 2 was hesitating. He was not afraid that Luli would risk his life, but he wanted Luli alive. Only in this way could the pure heaven blood eagle race be satisfied. On the other hand, if Luli were to die, the other side would not be able to vent their anger, and they would ask the Sun family to hand him over. He pondered for a moment and said, "Speak. First, you are not allowed to torture me." Luli said calmly, "Also, you cannot bind me or I will kill myself right away. I have a kind of bug that you know. I can bite myself into bones. You can seal off my divine energy, but it won't work." "All right." Patriarch 2 nodded. When Luli was captured, he would send him to the heaven of pure blood eagle race. As long as Luli was there, nothing else mattered. He could vent his anger by torturing Luli. But if Luli were to die, how could he answer to the pure heaven blood eagle race? Luli nodded and continued, "Secondly, you cannot rob me. Even if I have to die, I must die with dignity. Just these 2 conditions, how about it?" Luli had the relic iron, which was his chance to turn the tables. As long as he had the relic iron, he could find a chance to fight his way out and escape. Therefore, he could not allow anyone to rob him of his treasures, or he would die for sure. In that case, he might as well fight to the death now. Ha! Many people mocked. Luli was a bumpkin, and the armor he was wearing was of low quality. He was only a second tribulation heaven god. What good stuff could he have? Not even those warriors would want it. Patriarch 2, on the other hand, was hesitating. Previously, he had suspected that Luli had some treasures, or else he could not have killed the god of Eagle. After all, that was a 6-winged blood eagle, known to be invincible in 3 trials. If Luli had no treasures, how could he have killed it? Now that Luli had stated his conditions, Patriarch 2 was even more doubtful. But after a moment of thought, Patriarch 2 nodded and said, "Okay, come with us." So what if Luli had treasures? Patriarch 2 had seen all kinds of treasures. With the arena, Patriarch 2 was making money every day. Luli could not have sovereign weapon, could he? If Luli had sovereign weapon, then he must have a powerful background. How could he enter the Ice Valley? Therefore, Patriarch 2 didn't mind. As long as he could deliver Luli to the heaven of blood eagle race safely and give him some divine stones as compensation, the heaven of blood eagle race would leave him alone. If Patriarch 2 could not satisfy the heaven of blood eagle race this time, he would die for sure, and then he would have nothing left. Okay. Luli nodded readily and flew directly to one of the battleships. Patriarch 2 and the others winked at each other and followed Luli. But they were all on guard against Luli. Luli behaved himself. He followed them into the battleship calmly. He walked to a corner of the cabin and sat with his legs crossed, saying nothing. When Patriarch 2 and the other 4 came in, they all sat with their legs crossed nearby. 5 warriors of the Fourth Tribulation were watching over them. Patriarch 2 believed that Luli could not play any tricks. If Luli could kill the 5 of them, he wouldn't have to surrender. Of course, Patriarch 2 and the other 4 didn't dare to be careless. They had been keeping an eye on Luli. After some thoughts, Patriarch 2 sent a message back and asked the messenger of the heaven of blood eagle race to go to a nearby city. He would hand Luli over in person. Whoosh! Several battleships whooshed across the sky toward a nearby city. Clearly, the battleship was a treasure of the third heaven. It was fast, even faster than warriors of the Fourth Tribulation. It was a bit far from the nearest city. It would take them a day to fly there. Patriarch 2 thought about it and asked a team leader outside to send a message and ask for more warriors to come. It would be safer this way. He must hand Luli over to the messenger of the heaven of blood eagle race in one piece. The battleships flew fast. 2 hours later, another 5 battleships arrived. There were more than 1,000 warriors and 1 warrior of the Fourth Tribulation. Luli had been quiet. He sat in a corner with his legs crossed, as if he had accepted his fate. He didn't say anything, but he had been trying to come up with a solution. But he couldn't come up with one no matter how hard he tried. In the face of absolute power, all schemes and tricks were useless. As they got closer and closer to the city, more and more warriors came. Patriarch 2 and the others felt more assured, but Luli's mind was sinking to the bottom. One day later, the city was in sight. Patriarch 2 and the others checked with psychic power. When they found Patriarch 8 was in the city, they were all relieved. Patriarch 8 was powerful. They wouldn't be afraid, even if some powerful warriors were to come to Luli's rescue. There were 3 warriors of the heaven of blood eagle race standing next to Patriarch 8. When Luli was handed over to the 3, Patriarch 2's task would be accomplished. Patriarch 8 would deal with the rest for Luli. Go, gotta massacre Lu. Patriarch 2 said coldly. Luli opened his eyes and stood up. He took a deep breath and used psychic power to check. When he found 3 warriors that were similar to God of Blood Eagle, he put on a bitter smile. Maybe this city would be his burial ground. If Patriarch 2 handed him over to the powerful warriors of the heaven of Blood Eagle race, the 3 would probably kill him on the spot to vent their anger. Chapter 2162. Patriarch 2 and the others brought Luli into the city and landed in the plaza. A leader of the Sun family cupped his fists and said, "Greetings, Patriarch 8, my lords." Master 2 and the others bowed to Luli with respect, except for Luli. Luli was ready to die anyway. How could he bow to the enemy? A middle-aged man in a luxurious robe looked at Luli and asked, "Is he the one who killed God Eagle?" Patriarch 2 didn't dare to say anything here. He would be in trouble if he was targeted by powerful warriors of the Heaven Blood Eagle race. A leader of the Sun family said, "Lord Eagle Flag, yes. His name is God of Massacre Lu. He killed God Eagle at the Ice Ceiling Valley." Eagle Flag was enraged. He snorted and said, "Do you think I am an idiot? This man is at the Second Tribulation realm, and God Eagle is a 6-winged Heaven Blood Eagle. Do you think this man can kill enemies 2 realms above him, or do you think we, the Heaven Blood Eagles, are useless?" "Lord Eagle Flag, don't get me wrong." The leader explained, "This was a big deal. Everyone in the Ice Ceiling Valley knows about it. If you don't trust us, you can just go and investigate. How can we lie to you about such a big deal?" Patriarch 8 nodded and said, "Eagle Flag, we have investigated this. This God of Massacre Lu and Eagle Flag had a fight at the arena, and Luli was killed by God of Massacre Lu. How can we blame someone else?" Since Patriarch 8 said so, Ing Chi believed him. He looked at Lu Li from head to toe, with killing intent rising in his eyes. At this moment, Lu Li felt like he was being stared at by a powerful beast. In the next second, he would be torn to pieces. At this moment of life and death, he thought quickly. Soon he smiled and said, "Eagle Flag? You want to know how I killed God Eagle?" Whoosh! Eagle Flag said nothing. A warrior next to him took out a rod and smashed at Lu Li. Half of Lu Li's shoulder was smashed into a bloody mess. Lu Li's legs sank into the ground. Blood spurted out and splashed on his face. After that, he put the rod back and said coldly, "Who do you think you are? How dare you be so arrogant now?" "Ha ha ha." Lu Li laughed. His face was covered in blood and half of his shoulder was blown up, so he looked quite ferocious. Not only was there no pain on his face, but he was also smiling. His eyes were filled with arrogance. He didn't even look at the person who injured him. He stared at Eagle Flag and said, "Eagle Flag, your mixed heaven-blood eagle race is indeed very strong, but there are races that are stronger than you in this world. Your mixed heaven-blood eagle race has declined. Do you dare to kill me? My clan will kill all of you." Lu Li's words surprised everyone. If Lu Li was not an idiot or a scam, then he must be fearless because he was backed by a strong backing. What was more, the mixed heaven bloodhawk was so powerful. Lu Li could kill it at the second tribulation realm. Maybe he really had a powerful background? It was just that Lu Li did not have the characteristics of a powerful race. His aura felt like that of a purebred human. Besides, Eagle Flag knew all the powerful races in this world, and Lu Li did not look like any of them. Ying Qi was silent for a moment before saying, "Oh, is that so? Then tell me, what race are you? Maybe you can scare me off." With pride, Lu Li wiped the blood off his face and said coldly, "You can find out which race I am if you check my soul." Ying Qi and the others were stunned again. Then, Ying Qi and the others used psychic power to check Lu Li's psychic power. After a while, several powerful warriors were shocked. There was a dragon mark in Lu Li's soul that was usually hidden. Now that Lu Li led a worm of the void attack, the dragon mark was exposed. Everyone could see it. Many powerful warriors here were knowledgeable. This was a powerful enchanted soul, at least of the 7th rank. Patriarch 8 even said it was above the 8th rank. Enchanted souls were used to protect the soul. Disciples of powerful families would all have enchanted souls to protect them. The more important a disciple was, the more powerful the enchanted soul would be. Powerful warriors of families all had powerful enchanted souls to protect them. The soul was the foundation of a warrior. If the body was destroyed, the warrior could be saved. But if the soul was destroyed, the warrior would be doomed. Therefore, the soul was highly valued. Usually, the strength of the enchanted soul of a disciple of a big family could tell his status. A 5th rank enchanted soul was already powerful. A 7th rank enchanted soul must be a disciple of a big family. Lu Li's enchanted soul might be of the 8th rank, which was quite powerful. Patriarch 8's enchanted soul was of the 8th rank. Therefore, everyone was shocked. Lu Li had such a powerful background. The Sun family warriors were even more confused. Why would a disciple of a big family ascend to the frozen valley? Nobody from their family came to pick him up? This did not make sense. The thing was, the enchanted soul in Lu Li's soul was real. There was nothing fake about it. Patriarch 8 and the others felt the situation was tricky. It was okay to offend the pure heaven blood eagle race, but now they had to offend another big family? Patriarch 2 and the others were in a cold sweat. Luckily, they didn't kill Lu Li just now, or they would be in big trouble. Patriarch 2 was trembling in fear. If Lu Li really was from a big family, he would die for sure when the powerful warriors of his family came. "I must go." Patriarch 2 thought to himself. No matter how this would end, he could not stay in the frozen valley. When everything was over, he would pack up and leave this area. With his abilities, he could live a good life anywhere he wanted. As long as he was not killed, then there would be no problem. Patriarch 8 looked at Ying Qi. His message was clear: I will leave him to you. How you deal with him is up to you. The Sun family had made it clear. If the pure heaven blood eagle race dared not to kill him, then it was none of the Sun family's business. Whoosh! Ing-Chi made a move. He appeared near Lu Li in a flash and reached for Lu Li's head with one hand. Lu Li didn't panic at all. There was no killing intent from Ing-Chi. Ing-Chi wouldn't dare to kill him. Ing-Chi's hand was in Lu Li's head. A surge of strange energy entered Lu Li's body. Then, Lu Li felt he had lost his strength. Not only could he not use divine energy, he could not even lift his hand. Take him away. Ing-Chi waved his hand. He could not make a decision on this matter. He had to bring Lu Li back to the family and ask the family patriarch, Ing-Hu, to make a decision. Also, they could look into Lu Li's identity. If he was someone the pure heaven blood eagle race could not afford to offend, then they would have to send him away. If they could, they would tear Lu Li apart and get a 7th or 8th rank enchanted soul. Phew. Lu Li kept a straight face, but he was relieved. If Ing-Chi didn't kill him now, then he still had a chance to live. Only by living could there be hope. That was what he said to Qin Zhan and Gan Lin, as well as to himself. Chapter 2163. The Facian Region. This region was located at the south of the Senda region. The Lord was a lady. She had no family, and she supported the region all by herself. She had many means, and her abilities were horrifying. She was famous at the Ziyang mainland. In a tavern in a small town of the Facian region, Qin Zhan and Gan Lin were waiting anxiously. Patriarch Gui had been out for half a day, and he hadn't come back yet. They were worried. They had escaped from the frozen valley to the Taiyan city without much trouble. Patriarch Tu's men were focused on Lu Li, not Qin Zhan and Gan Lin. By the time they noticed Qin Zhan and Gan Lin, they were already far away. Later on, Lu Li was discovered. Everyone was mobilized to hunt him down. They were relieved when they arrived at the city of the Facian region. No matter how bold Patriarch Tu's men were, they wouldn't dare to come to the city to kill people. Qin Zhan and Gan Lin wanted to find out about Lu Li right away. Patriarch Gui had been at the Ziyang mainland for many years. Qin Zhan and Gan Lin had been asking Patriarch Gui to go out and gather information. Another half a day later, Patriarch Gui came back with a solemn expression. Qin Zhan and Gan Lin were worried. Qin Zhan asked at once, "Any news?" "Yes." Patriarch Gui nodded and said, Lu Li was captured. His whereabouts were exposed at the Lust City. Patriarch 8 of the Sun family issued an order to hunt him down. He was captured and taken away by the pure heaven blood eagle race. Captured? Qin Zhan and Gan Lin's minds were weighed down. Could he still be alive after being captured? Gan Lin thought about it and asked, "He is still alive, right? Where did they take him?" "Still alive." Patriarch Gui nodded and said, "He must have been taken back to the territory of the pure heaven blood eagle race. They are at the northernmost part of the Ziyang mainland, the eagle territory. Well, don't even think about killing him. There are only 3 warriors of the pure heaven blood eagle race, but they are all 8-winged blood eagles. Eagle Flag is a famous warrior of the Ziyang mainland." 8-winged? Qin Zhan and Gan Lin were stunned. 8-winged blood eagles were comparable to divine immortals of the 4th tribulation. Eagle Flag was a famous warrior, so he must be at the peak of the 4th tribulation. With Qin Zhan and Gan Lin's battle strength, let alone a 4th tribulation martial artist, even a peak 3rd tribulation martial artist wouldn't be able to beat them. Old 10th immediately saw through their thoughts. If they tried to intercept them, it would be no different from a moth flying into a flame. In addition, seeing the unwillingness in their eyes, old Gui said coldly, "The Eagle Flag has a godly speedboat. Its speed is not much slower than teleportation. If you want to chase after them, you have to teleport all the way. Do you have that many godstones?" "Godly boat." The two of them looked at each other in astonishment. What kind of flying tool could be slower than teleportation? There was such a treasure in the 3rd heaven. One had to know that the teleportation formation could teleport tens of billions of miles in an hour. That's one of the top flying treasures. There was a trace of envy in old Gui's eyes as he sighed. The God speedboat is a treasure from the ancient times. It said that only one grandmaster can make one now, but the materials are too hard to find. It said that it takes 10 years to make one. Hence, such a treasure was priceless. Only a superpower could possess it. The Muddy Heaven Blood Eagle race has declined, but it was still one of the top 10 ancient races. That's why it has such a treasure. Alas, Qin Zhan and Gonlin sighed. With the amount of godstones they had, they couldn't teleport too far. They couldn't catch up with them, even if they wanted to. What could they do even if they caught up with them? Were they supposed to kneel down and beg the powerful warriors of the Muddy Heaven Blood Eagle race to let Luli go? Don't worry. Looking at the two, old Guay said, since the eagle flag didn't kill God of Massacre now, maybe they won't do it in the future. There will be a chance. What's your next plan? Plan? Qin Zhan and Gonlin were confused. They came to the third heaven with Luli. They didn't want to go anywhere. They just wanted to follow Luli. Now that they were separated from Luli, they didn't know where to go or what to do. Since you have nowhere to go, why don't you come with me? Old Guay thought about it and said, there's a good place in the Facian region called the Hell Mountain. There are all kinds of people there. There are many chances to earn godstones. You can go to the lead eagles only when you have godstones, right? Okay. Qin Zhan and Gonlin thought about it. They had nowhere to go now, and they had to find a place to stay. They must earn enough godstones and then figure out a way to find out about Luli. Then they could go and find Luli. On a barren land, a golden divine boat was flying at high speed. The speed of this divine boat was too fast. Ordinary third tribulation martial artists might not even be able to catch the shadow of the divine boat. They only felt a flash of golden light, and the divine boat disappeared into the distance. The boat was golden in color and enveloped in a halo. A ghost face was carved on the front of the boat, which looked strange. The boat didn't look big, less than 100 feet long and 20 to 30 feet wide. But inside the boat was a world of its own. There's a main hall, several side halls, and hundreds of rooms. Hiss, hiss, in a room, Luli was gasping. He was tied up by some kind of dark red iron chain. The iron chain was releasing some strange energy all the time. Not only was the energy hot, but it also made him feel like he was being pricked by needles, which made him feel unbearable pain. The iron chain was famous in the third heaven. It was called the demon suppression chain, which was used to tie up prisoners. As long as the divine energy was sealed and then tied up by the iron chain, it would be almost impossible for the prisoner to escape. The demon suppression chain would constantly transmit some kind of energy to torture the prisoner, which would consume the prisoner's physical strength and energy. The prisoner would have no energy to run away. Also, the demon suppression chain was very strong. Even a warrior of the fourth tribulation could not get rid of it, let alone Luli. Luli's body was sealed by the eagle flag. He didn't even have the strength to raise his hand, let alone run away. He didn't even have the strength to shout. He was lying on the ground like a maggot. He was trembling, and the veins on his face were popping out. He looked ferocious and horrible. He had been through a lot of pain in his life. His ability to withstand pain was stronger than average. But the current situation was still too much for him to bear. He had fainted several times, but he would wake up every time due to the pain. The room was sealed. Apart from the dim red glow from the demon suppression chain, every now and then, there was no other light. It was so quiet that it could drive people crazy. Luli was being tortured all the time. It was not hard to imagine how bad his state was. He had been trying to find a way to save himself. However, his divine energy was sealed, and he could not use the iron chain. The Worm of the Void and the Goo King could not bite off the iron chain. There was no way for him to run away. What if he could get rid of the demon suppression chain? There were 3 powerful mixed heaven blood eagles outside. That eagle flag was too powerful. Luli felt he would be killed in an instant if he fought against eagle flag. Take it easy. Chapter 2164. As a matter of fact, God of Hawk could ask the Sun family to open the spatial gate and send them back directly. That way, they wouldn't waste too much time. But God of Hawk was afraid that Luli might die on the way back. Also, he didn't want to beg the Sun family. It would take them less than half a year on the God boat. For them, half a year would pass by in a blink. Normally, they wouldn't take teleportation formations. It would be too shameful for them. What was more, teleportation formations were troublesome. They would have to go back and forth. The god boat was not slower than teleportation formations. They could cultivate and rest in peace here. Another thing was that Chi wanted to take Lu Li on the god boat because he wanted to see if someone from the Lu Li family would come to his rescue. If Lu Li really had a powerful background, someone would come to his rescue. By then, Chi could just let Lu Li go so that there wouldn't be a war between the two races. If someone from the Lu Li family went to the lead eagles, then there might be a war between the two races. The death of God of Hawk was not a big deal. It was not worth it to start a war. Lu Li was tied up by the demon suppression chains, and someone would check him with psychic power from time to time. Chi was relieved to cultivate. The demon suppression chains could torture people, but they wouldn't kill Lu Li. As long as Lu Li was still alive, he would be fine. Lu Li was still enduring the inhumane torture. He seemed to be numb to it. He wouldn't pass out now, which meant that his endurance had been strengthened. Not only was his willpower stronger, but his physical body was also getting stronger. Admittedly, this was the only piece of good news. His physical body was being tortured, which stimulated his potential. He was a cultivator of physical body, so his physical body was getting stronger. Even though it was not fast, his physical body was strong now. Every time he wanted to grow, he would need precious elixirs. Average elixirs were of no use now. The wound on his shoulder was healed. His strong physical body could recover no matter how serious the injury was. That was the benefit of having a strong physical body. The light in the room flickered, and it was eerily quiet. Lu Li had gotten used to it after staying here for more than a dozen days. His heart also became exceptionally tranquil. At this moment, he even wanted to travel a little further. He didn't see the demon suppression chains as torture, but as body refinement. He felt much better now. Life and death were decreed by fate. If there was no escape, then there was no point of rushing. If there was a chance, they would escape. If there was no chance, they would die. Everything depended on fate. Time passed bit by bit. Very quickly, a month had passed. The Godspeed boat had already crossed 2 regions. Its speed was simply too fast. Along the way, they encountered many martial artists. Once, they even encountered a 4th Tribulation martial artist. However, the other party didn't dare to act recklessly after discovering that it was the Godspeed boat. The Godspeed boat was very precious, and it was impossible for anyone who wasn't from a super family to own one. There would definitely be experts on a Godspeed boat. That 4th Tribulation martial artist wasn't that stupid. He wouldn't come here to die. My lord. Today, Eagle Flag was woken up. A subordinate walked in and reported, "Devil Sea is in front. Do you want to take a detour?" Devil Sea? Chi opened his eyes and frowned. He nodded and said, "Rakshasa Sea hasn't been peaceful recently. It seems like there are a few groups of strong people fighting. Let's take a detour to avoid trouble." The Rakshasa Sea was the inner sea of the Purple Yang continent. This sea region was huge and had always been a chaotic place. It was the most chaotic place in the entire Purple Yang continent. The terrain was complicated, and there were many relics connected to many secret realms and broken pieces of the void. No powerful warriors had ever occupied this place. Recently, several groups of powerful warriors had started fighting again. Naturally, Chi didn't want to get involved. The pure Heaven Blood Eagle family was famous, but it didn't work in the Rakshasa Sea. The warriors here didn't care who they were. If there was a fat target, they would kill it first. If there were powerful warriors after them, they would run into secret realms, broken pieces of the void, and in the relics. The Godspeed boat changed its direction and took a detour around the Rakshasa Sea. Granted, they would have 1 more month, but for warriors of Chi's level, 1 month was too short. They continued flying, and after 5 days, the Godspeed boat suddenly shook violently, causing the expressions of Chi and the others to change drastically. Lu Li, who had his eyes closed, suddenly opened his eyes as well. Lu Li used his psychic power at once. Even though his divine energy was sealed, he could still use his psychic power. Outside, there were many rays of light flying around. Two groups of people were flying over one after the other. Clearly, one group was chasing after the other group. Luckily, the Godspeed boat was sturdy. Regular attacks couldn't break the Godspeed boat. Boom! Another ray of light landed on the Godspeed boat. Ing-Chi was enraged. He shouted coldly, "Ing-Feng, go out and tell them to calm down." Okay. A powerful warrior of the pure Heaven Blood Eagle family took the order and rushed out. As soon as he got out, he transformed. 8 wings appeared on his back. A fierce chi and energy enveloped the area. Powerful. Luli felt it as well. He shivered. Once the pure Heaven Blood Eagle family transformed, their chi and energy could scare many people. The movement between their eyebrows, in particular, was even more horrifying. Whoosh! Ing-Feng flew over like a gust of wind. In an instant, he reached a warrior. With one move of his claw, the warrior was torn in half and turned into a mist of blood. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Ing-Feng moved on and on. Every time he moved, a warrior would be torn apart. The warriors of the two groups were scared out of their wits. But seeing that Ing-Feng was killing both sides, the leaders of the two groups were enraged. They roared and charged at Ing-Feng together. Buzzing, the vertical eye between Ing-Feng's eyebrows lit up. A ray of chaotic light was shot out, and the leader of the team was turned into dust. That leader was a warrior of the fourth tribulation, but he couldn't stand the chaotic light for even a moment. Run! The others were scared out of their wits. They ran to all directions at once. Ing-Feng moved on. After killing another 3 or 4 warriors, he came back. Are the warriors of the Rakshasa Sea too brave? Or is it true that our race has declined? Ing-Chi sighed. Ing-Feng had transformed as soon as he went out and revealed the characteristics of the pure Heaven Blood Eagle family. How could these people dare to make a move? Ing-Feng had killed so many warriors, but the two leaders still made a move, which made Ing-Chi exclaim. In ancient times, the pure Heaven Blood Eagle family was famous. Powerful warriors at the third heaven would make way for warriors of the pure Heaven Blood Eagle family. Now, these small fries dared to make a move against them. Let's go. The eagle flag sighed. The godly speedboat cut through the sky and flew on. Luli sighed as well and closed his eyes again. He had thought this was his chance. Little did he know that the warriors outside were so useless. Well, it is not that the warriors outside are useless. It is just that the pure Heaven Blood Eagle family is too powerful. Ing-Feng is already so powerful. How powerful can Ing-Chi be? Luli's mind was weighed down. Ing-Chi was too powerful. Even if there were some accidents along the way, nobody could be a match for Ing-Chi. Boom! Luli's mind wandered for more than 4 hours when the Godspeed boat trembled again. Luli checked with psychic power and found that there were thousands of people fighting outside. Out of control? Ing-Feng, you two go out and kill half of the warriors outside. Chapter 2165. Ing-Feng and Wu who were ruthless. They didn't use their claws to tear the enemies apart. Instead, they released their fundamental principles and killed their enemies. For a fourth tribulation heaven god to kill a third tribulation heaven god, it was as easy as killing chickens and ducks. In the time for a few breaths, a large number of enemies had died. Those outside were brave. Ing-Feng and Wu whose killing spree drove them mad, and they started to attack Ing-Feng and Wu Hu. But after more than 1,000 were killed and a fourth tribulation heaven god was killed, everyone calmed down and flew away in the form of birds and beasts. Ing-Feng and Wu who were enraged. They chased after them for the time, for 1 incense stick to burn, and killed another 1,000. The dignity of the Heaven Blood Eagle race could not be challenged. Since these people dared to do so, they must pay the price. Even Ing-Chi was enraged. If they didn't do something, they wouldn't be appeased. The Devil's Sea is a strange place. Inside, Ing-Chi sighed speechlessly. There were too many mystic realms, void fragments, historical remains, maze realms, and small worlds. The space here was not stable. Therefore, people here were not afraid of the powerful warriors outside. If they could not win, they could run. As long as they could get into those places, even a lord could do nothing Luckily, he didn't go into the Devil's Sea. Otherwise, he would be under constant attack. And this was just the periphery. However, this also showed that the prestige of the mixed Heaven Blood Eagle clan had indeed declined too much. Many people probably didn't even know about their clan. These past few years, the mixed Heaven Blood Eagle clan had been cultivating in seclusion and keeping a low profile for tens of thousands of years. They had to live in seclusion. In the ancient times, the Heaven Blood Eagle race was almost wiped out. Some of them managed to escape and hid in different places, struggling to survive. Later on, they recovered some strength, but were hunted down by a major race. For hundreds of thousands of years, the Heaven Blood Eagle race had been on the run and being hunted down. Every time they recovered, they would be severely injured again. The situation was reversed 3,000 years ago. Their biggest enemy was destroyed. Only then did the race become complacent, and each of them occupied a piece of land to rest and build up their strength. Otherwise, Ingu wouldn't have the guts to occupy an area. That would be too big of a target. Once he was targeted, he would be hunted down again. This was also the reason why Eagle Flag didn't kill Lu Li right away. They had finally recovered some strength. If they were to offend a big family, they would be back to square one. Come on, let's go. When Ing Feng came in, Ing Chi waved his hand helplessly and said, "You guys keep watch as well. Don't let anyone attack the Godspeed boat. If anything happens, immediately go out and suppress it." Yes, Eagle Wind and Eagle Wind accepted the order. Just now, the two of them had sensed that these people were just minor characters who wouldn't dare to casually attack. They hadn't expected these people to be so lawless and dare to attack anything. The Godspeed boat continued to fly forward. This time, Ing Feng did not dare to be careless. Rakshasa Sea was obviously in a chaotic battle. They often met people on the periphery, which meant that the battle inside was even more intense. They were not afraid of being ambushed, but they were afraid of alerting the Eagle Flag once more and angering it. If that happened, neither of them would have a good time. As expected, along the way, he kept encountering people. The people from Devil's Sea did not care whether the Godspeed boat was a Godspeed boat or not. Perhaps some of them did not know who it was, so they attacked whenever they saw someone flying past. The two of them were very cautious. The moment someone was nearby, one of them would immediately rush out. Some people's attacks were blocked by the two of them, but they were soon slaughtered by them. Lu Li had been using his psychic power to check, but after 3 or 4 times, he lost interest. Even though the surroundings were chaotic, those were all low-level warriors. Occasionally, they would run into some warriors of the Fourth Tribulation, but they were no match for Ing Feng and Ing Feng. The mixed Heaven Blood Eagle race was very powerful. Average warriors of the Fourth Tribulation were no match for the 8-winged mixed Heaven Blood Eagles. Their Eagle Flag was even bigger. 5 days, 10 days, half a month. Along the way, they kept encountering warriors. Occasionally, they would be attacked. It seemed that there was a chaotic battle at the Devil's Sea. There were people on the periphery. Lu Li could not imagine how fierce the battle inside would be. "Someone strong, please." Lu Li prayed to himself. Small fries were of no use. If there could be some warriors at the peak of the Fourth Tribulation, then he might have a chance to escape. Boom! On the 20th day, a muffled explosion alarmed Lu Li. Not only was he alarmed, but he was also injured. A surge of horrifying killing intent whooshed by and wounded Lu Li. Such horrifying killing intent. This man is so powerful. Lu Li used psychic power to check. There was a crack on the Godspeed boat. It was not hard to imagine how powerful this man was. Lu Li spread out his psychic power and found that 4 powerful warriors were fighting. That move was clearly not aimed at the Godspeed boat. In other words, that was the aftermath of the attack, but it split the Godspeed boat and wounded him. How powerful was this man? Lu Li could not imagine. Is there no end to this? Ing Chi was alarmed from his cultivation. Without using psychic power, he dashed out and bellowed, "Since you want to die, then I will fulfill your wish." As soon as he finished his words, he felt something was wrong. The sky in front of him was being torn apart as if the firmament was being torn apart. There was a man with dozens of shadows of dragons behind him. His power was shocking. The four were locked in a fierce fight. Clearly, this was not aimed at them. Also, the four were all at the peak of the fourth tribulation. Chi felt he had run into an iron plate. Kiddo, you are arrogant, aren't you? A cold snort was heard. Following that, a ray of light flew over. Chi was startled. He was about to dodge when an old man on the left waved his hand. A gust of wind blew over and slowed him down. Swish! The ray of light hit Chi. He was smashed away. His armor was cracked. He was wounded. My lord! Feng and the old man flew out at once. They stared at the two men who made the move in anger. Feng was enraged and said, "How dare you attack my lord? Do you know who we are?" Ha ha ha. A brown-haired old man laughed and said, "You are from the muddy heaven-blood eagle race. Do you think this is the ancient times? This is the Devil's Sea. Go back to your lead eagles. How dare you be so arrogant here? You are courting death." Okay. Chi laughed out of anger. The dignity of the muddy heaven-blood eagle race had been trampled on. This had infuriated him. If he didn't kill these people today, how could the muddy heaven-blood eagle race survive on the Xi'an continent? Kill them. Chi transformed at once and dashed over in anger. Feng and the old man had no choice but to follow him. Nobody cared about the Godspeed boat anymore. Okay. Luli was trembling at this moment. The chance he had been dreaming about had really come. Chi and the other two were fighting. Nobody cared about Luli. Also, the fight wouldn't end anytime soon. Chi and the other two might not win. Chapter 2166. This was his chance. But how could he do it? That was not easy. If Luli wanted to run away, he must get rid of the demon suppression chain. If he could not get rid of it, he would not be able to go anywhere. The worm of the void and master of venomous worms had tried. They could not break the demon suppression chain. Not only was the demon suppression chain strong, but it was also engraved with powerful runes. Li's divine energy was sealed, and he had no strength. It was impossible for him to get rid of the demon suppression chain by regular means. Fortunately, Luli had thought a lot during this time and had a plan. Blood Fairy, do it, Luli said. Blood Fairy's tentacle reached out and pierced into the demon suppression chain. The demon suppression chain was so strong that not even the worm of the void could break it, not because of the material, but because of the runes. Luli believed that the worm of the void and master of venomous worms could break the demon suppression chain when the runes were broken. Previously, Luli asked Blood Fairy to check the demon suppression chain secretly, but he did not tell her to do it. Because Eagle Flag and the others were all on the Godspeed boat, once Blood Fairy touched the runes of the demon suppressing chain, it was very likely that she would be detected. At that time, not only Blood Fairy, but the treasures on him would also be lost. Chi and the other two were fighting outside. Naturally, Luli asked Blood Fairy to take action. Blood Fairy had studied the demon-suppressing chain a long time ago. After piercing the chain, she sent a voice transmission to Hans Sr. "Master, give me the time it takes for 3 sticks of incense to burn. I can help you break this divine inscription." The time for 3 incense sticks to burn? Faster. Luli was getting impatient. Who could tell how long the fight would last? When 2 powerful warriors fought, if there was a great disparity in their abilities, the outcome could be decided in an instant. Of course, if the 2 were of similar abilities, the fight could last for days and nights. Boom, 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 the fight outside was fierce. The boat would be hit by the shock waves every now and then. Fortunately, they were fighting in the sky, far away from the boat. Otherwise, the boat would have been smashed. This battle was very interesting. Originally, it was a battle of 2 experts against 2 experts. Chi led the 3 of them forward, but because Chi's group of 3 was too powerful, the 2 opposing teams joined forces to attack Chi's group of 3. Those 4 people should be the old demons of Rakshasa Sea. They were very experienced in battle. They would occasionally work together to attack Eagle Flag and the other 2. Occasionally, they would even backstab their enemies. This battle was extremely exciting. The 3 sides restrained each other, and it was hard to tell who would come out on top. There was a very important reason why no one was killed immediately. Eagle Flag and the other two did not use Chaos Light. Otherwise, one of them would have died by now. The Chaotic Light was too terrifying. Ordinary people wouldn't be able to block it. However, after using the Chaotic Light, the Mixed Sky Blood Eagle would be temporarily weakened. Ing-Chi was afraid that after he released it, the other three would take the opportunity to kill him. All three sides wanted to get rid of the other two sides, but it would be impossible to do so in a short period of time. They were all on guard against each other, restraining each other. It would be difficult to end the battle in a short period of time. This gave Luli a chance. After the time it takes for 3 incense sticks to burn, the demon-suppressing chain glowed brightly, and Blood Fairy's voice sounded, "Master, the divine glyph has been broken. The rest is up to you." Blood Fairy retracted her tentacle and then pierced it into the Godspeed boat. Luli did not pay attention to Blood Fairy. He ordered the worms of the void. Many worms of the void flew out and began to chew on the demon-suppressing chain. Okay, Luli checked with psychic power. The worms of the void could chew on the demon-suppressing chain. It was slow, but there were so many worms of the void. In the time for 1 incense stick to burn, the demon-suppressing chain would be broken. Phew. Now that the divine glyph of the demon-suppressing chain was broken, Luli no longer had to endure that inhuman pain. He took a deep breath and forced himself to calm down. He had the chance to run away, but that did not mean that he was absolutely safe. There was a strand of energy inside him that sealed off his divine energy and weakened his physical body. He could not even lift his hands. Fortunately, he had dragon wings. He could use them to fly away. However, if he wanted to run away, he must go to the Sea of Rakshasa. Only in a chaotic place could he take advantage of the chaos and hide. If he were to run to the periphery, it was only a matter of time before he would be caught by Eagle Flag. The Sea of Rakshasa was a chaotic place. Luli did not have any abilities except for the worms of the void and the master of venomous worms. He could not use his other abilities. Once he encountered enemies, he would not be able to escape death. Whatever, I will go to the Sea of Rakshasa first. Life and death are decreed by fate. Luli calmed himself down. A moment later, the demon-suppressing chains were broken. Finally, he was free. He released his dragon wings at once and flew up. Blood Fairy, let's go. Blood Fairy snuck into the Godspeed boat. Naturally, Luli would not leave her behind. Blood Fairy was very important to him. Her knowledge of divine glyphs was profound and could save his life at critical moments. Master, wait a minute. Blood Fairy's words surprised Luli. The enemies could come back at any time. What was Blood Fairy doing? He asked. Blood Fairy explained, Master, I am cracking the divine glyph of the Godspeed boat. Give me some time, and I will be able to control the Godspeed boat. What? Luli was surprised. Then he was overjoyed. The Godspeed boat was a piece of treasure. His speed was so fast, and his defense was abnormally strong. If he could take the Godspeed boat, he would have a better chance of escaping. He stopped and urged Blood Fairy to keep cracking the divine glyph of the Godspeed boat. Luli used psychic power to check the situation outside. He did not dare to be too conspicuous. He could only sense the ripples in space to determine the situation. The fight was still fierce. The 7 of them were injured, but not fatal. They were afraid to risk their lives. They were all looking for a chance. Time moved on. Luli felt each day was like a year. The fight outside was getting more intense. Everyone seemed to be fighting for real. Once the fight began, they would use their most powerful skills. When the outcome was decided, Luli would be in danger. Boom! An hour later, someone was smashed down from the sky. Luli checked with psychic power. It was Eagle Wind. Eagle Wind was badly injured. Half of his body was gone. There was a hole in his chest. He was weak and could die at any moment. Eagle Wind. Up in the sky, Eagle Flag shouted in rage. Then he yelled, Since you want to die, I will grant your wish. Luli knew that Eagle Flag was about to use the chaotic glow. Anxious, Luli sent a message at once. Is Blood Fairy ready? If not, come out now. We will all be doomed if we don't leave now. Blood Fairy did not reply. It was as if she did not hear Lu Li's words. Lu Li was in a panic, but he had to wait a bit longer. He used the trace of the great path to sense. Something was not right. He had to run. Buzzing, all of a sudden, a breeze came. Lu Li realized he was being targeted by psychic power. A look of fear appeared on his face, because the spiritual will belong to Yingfeng. Eagle Wind was badly injured. He must be trying to go back to the Godspeed boat to tend his wounds. Eagle Wind, who was barely breathing, was surprised as well. He used psychic power to check and realized that Lu Li had broken free from the demon suppression chains. All right, Blood Fairy's voice suddenly rang out. Next, the Godspeed boat flashed and transformed into a beam of white light that shot off into the distance, leaving behind a dumbfounded hawk wind. Boom! As soon as the Godspeed boat flew away, Eagle Flag and the other Heaven Blood Hawk were smashed down. At the same time, 2 bodies fell down. Eagle Flag and the other Heaven Blood Hawk used psychic power to check. They were stunned as well. They had killed 2 warriors and were badly injured. They wanted to take the Godspeed boat and run away. Little did they know that the Godspeed boat was under Lu Li's control. Chapter 2167. Yingfeng was badly injured, which enraged Yingqi. He had to release the chaotic light. He and the other Blood Eagle both released the chaotic light and successfully killed 2 warriors. However, they were attacked by the other 2 and both were badly injured. Judging by the situation, they must leave at once. Taking the God boat was the safest choice. The God boat was so fast that they could get away as soon as they could get rid of the 3 warriors. The God boat suddenly flew away. It was controlled by someone he didn't expect. Lu Li's divine energy was sealed, and he was restrained by the demon suppression chains. How could he get away? More importantly, the God boat was controlled by Yingfeng. How could Lu Li control the God boat to fly away? Yingqi and the others could not figure out. They were frustrated. Lu Li's escape was not a big deal. The problem was that they needed the God boat to get away. They could all die here today. Let's go. The God boat was flying towards the Devil's Sea. Yingqi and the others didn't dare to go after them. It was a mess over there. In their current state, they would die for sure if they dared to go to the Devil's Sea. Yingqi grabbed Yingfeng with one hand and ran away. At the same time, his vertical eye glowed. He was ready to release the chaotic light at any time. If the other 2 dared to kill them, he would kill at least one of them at the cost of his life. The other 2 chased after them, but they didn't dare to push them too far. The chaotic light had killed 2 warriors, which scared them. Yingqi and the other 2 were badly injured anyways. They could take their time to catch up. Whoosh! Soon, the 5 of them disappeared into the distant sky. There were 2 or 3 people nearby who were secretly watching the battle. Only after the 5 of them left did they feel relieved. The 3 sneaked over and took the bodies of the 2 powerful warriors away. The people of Rakshasa Sea were all arrogant and unruly, extremely daring. Warriors of the Devil's Sea would take actions even if they were still alive and badly injured, let alone the bodies. What a pity! One of them grabbed a body and flew away. He looked at the Devil's Sea with regret. The Godspeed boat was a priceless treasure. If he could obtain the Godspeed boat, he would have struck it big. Ha! The man sneered. He could sense Lu Li's situation clearly. How dare he control the God boat to go to the Devil's Sea? There were fights everywhere. Lu Li would be courting death if he went. Lu Li realized it too. After flying on the godly speedboat for the time it takes for 2 incense sticks to burn, he felt as if he had come here to die. In the time it took for 2 incense sticks to burn, the Godspeed boat had been attacked at least a dozen times. Although they were all attacks from small martial artists, there were too many people here. Who knew if they would encounter a super expert in the next second? We can't continue flying like this. Sooner or later, something will happen. The Godspeed boat is too conspicuous. Lu Li thought about it. He must find a place to hide. He could not keep flying, or he would die for sure. Having made up his mind, Lu Li used psychic power to check and find a place to hide. He had to first resolve the strange energy in his body. Otherwise, he wouldn't have any combat power and wouldn't be able to survive in Devil's Sea. That island is not bad. After the time for half an incense stick to burn, Luli noticed an island with psychic power. It was evident that the island had just gone through a battle. Half of the island was blown up, and there were bodies everywhere. There were also many bodies floating in the sea nearby. The more dangerous the place, the safer it was. This place had just experienced a great battle, and there were corpses everywhere. Even if someone passed by, they would not stop. Occasionally, someone would come to steal from the dead. As long as he hid well, no one would notice him. Buzzing, he unfurled his dragon wings and sent a message to Blood Fairy. Can the Godspeed boat shrink? Yes. With a white glare, the Godspeed boat shrank until it was the size of a palm. Luli took out the wicked bead and put it away. Blood Fairy flew back into Luli's body. Luli flew downward. The island was cracked. There was a crack in the middle. Luli flew in through the crack and reached the bottom of the island. He took out a dagger and began to dig with difficulty. There was a strange energy inside him that made it difficult for him to even lift his hands. However, he had to dig a hole with the dagger. The dagger was a relic that could cut through iron as if it were mud. The mud and stones at the bottom of the island were not solid. The dagger could cut them open easily. The problem was that it was difficult for Luli to even lift his hands. To him, digging out a cave was as difficult as digging out a mountain. It took Luli almost an hour to dig a small hole. He was drenched in sweat and felt he was about to collapse. He crawled in the hole, gasping for air. After a moment of rest, he said, "Blood Fairy, I am counting on you. Help me build a divine rune field that can isolate energy. Make sure that there are no ripples of divine runes. Do not let anyone see through me. If I am discovered, I will die for sure." "I know." Blood Fairy reached out her tentacle. She and Luli were one. If Luli died, Blood Fairy would have a new master. Blood Fairy did not have strong emotions like humans. That being said, she had been with Luli for a long time. Blood Fairy did not want Luli to die. Since Blood Fairy did not have human emotions, and she was highly intelligent, she had nothing else to do apart from studying divine runes. She was not interested in doing anything else. Blood Fairy was gifted in divine runes, and she had evolved several times. Her mind was clear, and she studied divine runes day and night. She was making progress every day. What could she achieve in the end? Luli could not imagine. Blood Fairy set up the field. Luli lay on the ground like a worm, but he kept checking the surroundings with psychic power. If someone passed by and saw him, he would have to take the speedboat and run away. Luli was lucky. Even though there were people passing by, too many people had died on this island. Many people felt it was unlucky and flew away instead of coming closer. Blood Fairy was fast. In less than an hour, she was done. The field she built was similar to the one god Eagle used to fight. She isolated the energy in the field. At the same time, she built a formation of illusion. If no powerful warriors came close, they would not be able to see that Luli was hiding here. Luli released his dragon wings and flew out. He was satisfied with what he saw. He had to use the mark of Tao to sense some ripples of divine runes nearby. Average warriors would not be able to detect it with psychic power, unless they were super warriors that had passed the fourth tribulation. The thing was, warriors that had passed the fourth tribulation would not check carefully. An island full of dead people? Luli flew in and sat on the ground. He began to think of a way to consume the energy in his body. If he could not consume the energy, his abilities would be compromised. Maybe any warrior that had passed the third tribulation could kill him. Luli had learned about Chi and the others. They would not be able to run away anytime soon. Since Chi and the others were still alive, it was highly possible that they had escaped. Once Chi and the others recovered, they would come after Luli. He had the speedboat with him. Who knew if Chi and the others could sense it? Chapter 2168. Luli once had many strange energies in his body. He had the trace of the Great Path. He could absorb all the strange energies into his 8 paths and turn them into his own. This time, Luli was going to do the same. This was the only way to consume the energy. He sat with his legs crossed and began to mobilize the trace of the great path to gather the energy. However, the energy from the eagle flag was strange. It was like maggots in his bones, hiding in every corner of his body. He could not use the energy. It was as if it had taken root in his body. 5 days. Luli sat with his legs crossed for 5 days, mobilizing the trace of the great path, but to no avail. Since he could not mobilize the energy in 5 days, he could not do it even for a year. Luli calmed himself down and began to study the energy. He had to figure out a way to study the trace of the great path. Many people had been passing by, and some had come to the island to make a fortune from the dead. Many corpses were stripped, but nobody had noticed this place. The low-level warriors could not sense the divine patterns down there. The island was full of corpses. Nobody should have come here, but it was chaotic here. Who could tell what could happen? Inevitably, Luli was getting anxious. He calmed himself down and continued to study. He did not believe that the energy could not be dissolved. Any kind of energy was energy. Theoretically speaking, it could be dissolved. Luli continued to mobilize the trace of the great path to mobilize the energy. At the same time, lines appeared in his mind. There were more than 3,000 traces of the great path. They formed a picture in his mind. In the past, he had studied from a partial perspective. Now, he was looking at it as a whole. There were too many traces of the great path. Looking at it as a whole, it looked mysterious. Luli could feel the abstruse mood, but he could not tell what was mysterious about it. It was a magnificent picture. Thousands of traces of the great path intertwined with each other, forming a magnificent picture. He felt that all the Tao and principles were contained in it. It contained the most fundamental, most powerful formation and profound meaning of the world. Luli immersed his psychic power in it, just like when he entered the realm of primordial chaos for the first time. That mysterious feeling filled his entire soul. He did not study the trace of the great path carefully. Instead, he immersed himself in that feeling. He wanted to pursue this feeling and see if he could learn something by immersing himself in it. The more he immersed himself in it, the more mysterious he felt. The trace of the great path was like a bottomless pit. The deeper he went, and there was no end. Luli felt he was sinking deeper and deeper. He stayed there for half a day, feeling like he couldn't get out. He wasn't in a hurry to come out. Instead, he continued to immerse himself in it and used his heart to comprehend that mysterious feeling. However, 2 days later, he panicked a little because he felt himself sinking deeper and deeper, and his consciousness seemed to be unable to come out. His consciousness had sunk so deep that he could not come out. It was like he was trapped in a quagmire. What should we do? Luli was panicking. If his consciousness was trapped here for the rest of his life, he would become a living dead. Even if he wasn't trapped for a lifetime, he would definitely be discovered after a few months or a few years. At that time, he wouldn't even know how he died. Why is this happening? Luli could not figure it out, no matter how hard he thought about it. How could the trace of great Tao have the function of trapping people's souls? He forced himself to calm down. How did the soul come in? How did he get the soul out? He slowly calmed himself down and thought of a way to return his consciousness to his soul. However, his consciousness was getting more and more blurry. He felt he was surrounded by mist, and he could not find a way out. Well, if push comes to shove, I will have to rely on the dragon's soul. Luli was not completely hopeless. He could control the worms of the void to attack his soul. In this way, the dragon soul would protect him and his soul. There was a good chance that he could wake up. Don't worry. Let's wait for 5 more days. Luli decided to stay here for another 5 days. If his soul could not wake up after 5 days, then he would have to force the worms of the void to do it. Now that he had made up his mind, he did not overthink. He let his soul relax completely and wandered in the world built by the trace of great Tao. He enjoyed the wonders and wonders of this world to his heart's content. Before he knew it, half a month had passed. Luli had planned to have the worms of the void attack him every 5 days. However, after half a month, nothing happened, as if he had lost himself. Even his consciousness was muddled. He had been staying here. This state was dangerous. Since people were passing by the island constantly, it was even more chaotic recently. There were people everywhere. No one knew if they would accidentally sneak into the ground and find him. Also, his consciousness was muddled. This was too dangerous. If he could not wake up, he might be trapped here for the rest of his life, never to come out. Time moved on. Another half a month had passed. There was still no sign of Lu-Li waking up. Blood Fairy did not know what had happened to him. She just followed Lu-Li's instructions and kept an eye on the surroundings. She would only wake Lu-Li up when someone was near. That being said, once someone was near, what would be the point of Blood Fairy waking Lu-Li up? Lu-Li could not consume the energy in his body. He was still like a defenseless scholar. He could not even lift up his saber. How could he fight? Another 18 days passed. Lu-Li opened his eyes all of a sudden. His eyes were filled with joy. He looked around, and his lips trembled with excitement. I have learned something. Finally, I have learned a little bit about the trace of the great Tao. Lu-Li trembled. He felt he had opened the door to a new world and found a golden path. The trace of great Tao, to be exact, is the trace of heaven and earth. It is the foundation of the entire world. The over 3,000 traces of great Tao build the entire world, support it, and contain all the profound meanings in the world. Is the mysterious land of primordial chaos a small world that has yet to take shape? Is it an embryonic form of a great world? Is it because the small world is growing slowly and the trace of great Tao is the skeleton of the world? Lu-Li murmured. There were many things that he could not understand. He had only learned a little bit. There was still a long way to go before he could truly learn the trace of great Tao. However, being able to comprehend a trace of it was extremely meaningful to him, because his control over the marks of the great Tao would increase greatly. Let me consume the energy first. Lu-Li gathered his thoughts and mobilized the trace of great Tao. This time it was much stronger. The trace of great Tao began to operate. Like a powerful black hole, it began to absorb the strange energy in his body. Okay, Lu-Li tried to sense. Even though the energy was only bit by bit, he was really absorbing it. The energy was sucked into his abdomen, gathered there, and then sent to his acupoints. Not bad, not bad. Lu-Li checked carefully to make sure that the energy was transformed into his own energy after it entered his acupoints. He was overjoyed. Based on his calculations, in half a month at most, he could absorb all the energy. Phew. Chapter 2169. Admittedly, Lu-Li had chosen a good location. The island was small and it was broken. There were bodies all over the island. All the bodies were stripped and some were smelly. Therefore, nobody would come here. Powerful warriors wouldn't bother. Those who made money from the dead wouldn't come here either. There was nothing left after all the bodies were stripped. There would be people passing by every now and then. Sometimes dozens of ships would fly by. But nobody cared about an island full of dead people. Lu-Li was at ease here. The energy in him was being dissolved bit by bit. He could move now. Once again, he had the strength in his body. It was a wonderful feeling. A man who once possessed great strength suddenly lost it and couldn't even lift up his saber. It would be hard for him to adapt and feel uncomfortable. It was a pleasant feeling to have power again. It was as if he had the whole world in his hands. Half a month later, all the energy in Lu-Li's body was dissolved. He sensed that his physical body had improved a lot. He also got the Godspeed boat. Even though he had suffered a lot, he had gained something. At least he was still alive. He felt relaxed. He didn't leave right away. Instead, he took a bath and had a good sleep. When he woke up, he didn't leave. He was in deep thought. He didn't know how Eagle Flag and the others were doing. Would they come after him? There was no news about Qinjian and Gonlin. Would they be captured by Patriarch too? Thinking about how he pretended to be a disciple of a super family in that small city, Patriarch too was scared pale. It seemed that even if they were captured, Patriarch too wouldn't dare to kill them. At the very most, he would have to suffer and continue to do hard labor. What should I do from now on? Lu-Li was worried. He couldn't stay at the Devil's Sea forever. It was a chaotic place. He couldn't survive in there with his abilities. One careless move, and he would be killed. If he didn't stay at the Devil's Sea, what if he was chased by the pure heaven blood eagle race? He had taken the Godspeed boat, which was a piece of treasure. He didn't know how many divine stones it was worth, but since it could fly so fast and had such strong defense, it must be valuable. According to his original plan, he would find a way to go to the Dragon Rebel Valley after he arrived at level 3 heaven. He would find the old Azura first and see if he could help. If he couldn't, he would find Xingxi and Unrivaled. The two sisters would definitely have a way to take him to the Dragon Rebel Valley. Now that he had offended the pure Heaven Blood Eagle clan, it would be difficult for him to move an inch in the future. It would be fine if he stayed in the Devil's Sea, but once he went out, he would be easily tracked and killed. That's right. He believed that the muddy Heaven Blood Eagle clan would soon find out his identity. Once they found out that he was from the second heaven, they would probably kill him immediately. They would not give him another chance. After much consideration, Luli decided to stay at the Devil's Sea for a while and find a force to join. He could get some information and have a better understanding of the third heaven. It was too dangerous to go out now. There was only hope if he was alive. If he died, there would be nothing left. After making his decision, he did not think any further. He sat cross-legged on the ground and cultivated until his divine power was maxed out. After cultivating for 3 days, Luli suddenly opened his eyes. He sensed someone was outside. Someone had come to the island and was secretly rummaging through the corpses. He must be a nobody and was trying to pick up some leftover loot. Great! Luli smiled. He dashed out from underground and came to the side of the warrior in an instant. That man was covering his nose and rummaging through the corpses. He was scared out of his wits when someone suddenly showed up next to him. "Ghost!" He shouted and ran away. Luli grabbed the man's neck and said coldly, "Shut up or die." That man had a pointy mouth and monkey cheeks. Clearly, he was a cunning man. He was short and thin. Luli grabbed his neck like he was grabbing a chicken. Seeing Luli's eyes and feeling the warmth in Luli's hand, the man was relieved. It was okay as long as the man was not a ghost. The man put on a flattering smile and said, "Lord, don't kill me. We can talk this out." This man was just an average warrior of the 3 tribulations. Luli could kill him as easily as crushing an ant. Luli was not worried that this man had some tricks up his sleeve. Luli dashed back to the cave, threw the man down, and said, "Answer my questions. If you can't answer them well, die. Don't worry." The skinny man nodded and bowed, smiling. Luli was only at the second tribulation realm, but he was so fast. Also, his killing intent and pressure were so strong. The man knew very well that it would be too easy for Luli to kill him. "What is your name? Do you have a map of the Devil's Sea?" Luli asked. Without any hesitation, the man took out a map and put it on the ground. He pointed to a point and said, "Lord, I am Ho-San. We are here." Luli took a look. The map was quite detailed. There were many islands on the map. There were 4 largest islands, and there was a very large island nearby. The place Ho-San pointed to was near the island. Luli asked, "Tell me about the Devil's Sea. How many forces are there, and how many powerful warriors are there? Be specific." Okay, Ho-San was smart. He didn't waste any time. He said, "The Devil's Sea is the most chaotic place at the Zeong land because there are many secret realms, broken spaces, maze realms, and relics. Many old warriors that can't survive outside are cultivating here. As long as they can escape here, even a super family can't hunt them down. There are currently 4 major powers in the Rakshasa Sea, each occupying the 4 largest islands. They are the Devil Palace, the Palace of Hell, the Pavilion of Heaven, and the Mu family. The island near us is occupied by the Palace of Hell. Clearly, Ho-San had been here for many years. He knew the situation here like the back of his hand. After a while, Luli had a basic understanding of the Devil's Sea. The 4 forces occupied the best places, but there were some old warriors that lived alone. They didn't like to form groups, so they only occupied some small islands to cultivate. There were many powerful warriors at the Devil's Sea. Too many old warriors that couldn't survive outside came here. Some old warriors that wanted to make a breakthrough also came here. There were frequent battles here, and it was chaotic. The Devil Sea is quite chaotic recently. Which two forces are fighting? Luli asked out of curiosity. It must be a super force, or else it wouldn't be so big. The Palace of Hell and the Palace of Hell. Ho-San explained. The immortal lady of the Palace of Hell cut the prince of the Palace of Devil Sea into pieces. The Palace of Devil Sea is furious, and they are attacking the Palace of Hell. They have been fighting for more than half a year, but they are about to call a truce. Luli asked which side won. Ho-San shook his head and said, neither one. Both sides suffered casualties. The Palace of Devil Sea suffered more. Neither side can afford to fight. If they go on, both forces will be doomed. They will be annexed by other forces. Why did their immortal lady cut the prince of the Palace of Devil Sea into pieces? Luli was confused. Usually, the prince and immortal lady wouldn't dare to kill without reason. That would mean trampling on their dignity. For example, when he killed the prince of the Fu family at the second heaven, the Fu family went crazy. Ha ha! Ho-San grinned and said, I heard that the prince of the Palace of Devil Sea drugged the immortal lady of the Palace of Hell. The immortal lady was protected by a secret treasure. She woke up when she was about to do something. Chapter 2170. The goddess of the Hell Palace was famous. Her name was Suyuichin. She was not only famous at the Devil Sea, but also at the entire Ziyang land. She was the dream partner of many young masters. It wasn't that this woman was devastatingly beautiful and could cause the downfall of a nation. Elixirs at the third heaven were everywhere. Many girls had been taking elixirs since they were young. Their bodies wouldn't be bad. There were many beautiful girls everywhere. A goddess of the Devil Sea wasn't a high status. Suyuichin was famous because she had a rare divine body, the divine body of stars and moon. It was said that this kind of divine body could only be found once in 100,000 years. She had the natural rhythm of heaven and earth. When having sex with her, one could sense the truth of heaven and earth. The possibility of learning a powerful fundamental principle was greatly increased. Of course, the divine body of stars and moon was just a legend. Nobody knew if it was true. This rumor had been circulating in the third heaven for many years. After Suyuichin was proven to have the divine body of stars and moon, her value increased immediately. She had many pursuers. Some descendants of emperors even came to propose. However, Suyuichin was focused on pursuing the Tao. She wanted to carry forward the Hell Palace. She didn't care about anyone's pursuit. Not long ago, there was a gathering at the Devil Sea where the young generation of the Devil Sea gathered. Naturally, Suyuichin was the center of attention. She was the chosen one. After the gathering, the divine son of the Devil Palace met Suyuichin alone. Unexpectedly, he drugged her and tried to rape her. As a result, he was chopped up by Suyuichin, of course. These were just rumors that Ho-San heard. He didn't know the truth. Anyway, the Devil Palace and the Hell Palace have been fighting for more than half a year. Many people had died. Many of the smaller forces nearby were implicated, and some of them were directly destroyed. Now, there was a truce between the two sides. Neither could destroy the other. Too many powerful warriors had died. Both sides would suffer losses if they continued to fight. By then, other forces would benefit, and both forces would be destroyed. Well, joining the Hell Palace is a good choice. Luli made up his mind after he heard Ho-San's story. The Hell Palace was powerful. He didn't have to worry about being hunted down. So many of them had died. They needed fresh blood. It was easy for him to get information. He didn't have to make a name for himself here. He could cultivate here for a while and leave when the time was right. That's settled. Luli was decisive. He waved his hand and said, "Take me to the Hell Palace. I want to join the Hell Palace." "My lord wants to join the Underworld Palace?" Ho-San was startled and then said with a frown, "Sir, there's still some distance from here to the Hell Palace. Although the war is about to end, the surroundings are still very chaotic. If we go to the Underworld Palace, we'll be easily killed on the way. I think it's better to stay nearby for a while. The people from Rakshasa Palace don't care who they are. They kill anyone they see. I see. Luli thought about it and asked, how about half a month? Do you think half a month is enough? It should be about time. Hosen nodded and said, the people from Devil Palace are retreating. They should be able to leave within half a month. All right. Luli wasn't a reckless person. He could afford to wait for half a month. He glanced at Hosan and said, you stay here and cultivate. Don't move, or I'll kill you. Bring me to the Underworld Palace, and I'll let you go. No. Hosan hurriedly waved his hand and said, my lord, I actually wanted to join the Underworld Palace. The Underworld Palace didn't like people like me in the old days. Now, they need more people, and I want to join them. If I can see Goddess Sue, then even if I die, it will be worth it. Looking at Hosan's longing expression, Luli pouted. Hosan's good-for-nothing attitude made Luli speechless. She was just a goddess. The body of stars and Luna was just a legend. So what if it was real? Luli had no interest in women at the moment. All he wanted to do was to find Lu Ling and do what the devil asked him to do. Luli sat on the side and continued to cultivate. Hosan sat on the other side, not daring to move. The two of them waited in peace. More and more battleships flew by. Warriors of the Rakshasa Palace had begun to retreat, or else there wouldn't be so many battleships. They were safe here. Even though there were many battleships flying by, nobody cared about this island that was full of dead people. Soon, 10 days passed. There were fewer battleships. The majority of the army must have left. There were still some small teams staying behind to cover their retreat. There were no battleships from the Underworld Palace coming after them. It seemed that the Underworld Palace didn't want to fight anymore. Otherwise, they would have gone after them. Even though Lu Li was cultivating, he had been using the trace of the Great Tao to sense. He had a superficial understanding of the trace of the Great Tao. His senses had been enhanced by several times. He didn't even have to use psychic power to sense the situation within a radius of 300 miles. His senses were very clear. He could sense every blade of grass, every tree, even a flying mosquito within a radius of 30 miles. He knew he had picked up a treasure. The trace of the Great Tao was definitely something that could go against nature, as long as he could continue to study it. When he reached a certain level, his abilities would be extraordinary. Needless to say, his senses at the moment were freakish. If enemies were to attack him, he would know as soon as the fight started. At the very least, he could run away with the godly boat. Half a month later, Luli opened his eyes on time. There were no more battleships flying by during the past 2 or 3 days. Few warriors passed by. It was time to leave. It had been a long time. If Eagle Flag and the others had run away, their wounds should have recovered by now. This was the edge of the Rakshasa Sea. Luli still felt unsafe. Only by entering the Underworld Palace could the pure heaven-blood eagle race not go looking for trouble. After all, the Underworld Palace was a major force. Let's go. Luli grabbed Hosan with one hand and flew toward the northeast. He didn't release his dragon wings. He just flew close to the surface of the water. He used the trace of the Great Tao and psychic power at the same time. In this way, he could see further and more clearly. His speed was very fast, and his figure was graceful. He constantly changed directions and flew around. Hosan didn't do anything strange while he was in Lu Li's hand. Hosan was just wondering why Lu Li was taking detours. Soon, Hosan understood. Lu Li had been flying for an hour, but he didn't see anyone. Hosan had been checking with psychic power. He felt everyone around him had evaporated. Hosan was familiar with the surroundings. He knew there were people hiding in many places. Because of the war between the two forces, many smaller forces suffered. Many small warriors wandered around, just like Hosan. There were too many small warriors. The Palace of Rakshasa could not kill them all, nor would the Underworld Palace. Therefore, it could be deduced that Lu Li was taking detours to avoid those warriors. It had been an hour, and he didn't see anyone. What did it mean? It meant that Lu Li's detection ability was incredible. A second tribulation heaven god not only had such freakish speed, but also such horrifying detection ability. More importantly, Lu Li's aura made Hosan feel that he was not facing a second tribulation heaven god, but a fourth tribulation warrior. Ho-san saw what was called a real freak. They had been flying for an entire day, and Ho-san didn't see anyone. Good. Chapter 2171. What seemed like a mountain was far from the Hell Island. According to the map, Luli was only a short distance away from the Hell Island. However, Luli had been flying for 2 days and 2 nights and still hadn't arrived. He saw many warriors along the way, but he avoided them at once. He would take a detour even if it was a low-level warrior. He didn't want any accidents to happen. Before he had absolute power, he must keep a low profile. The Devil's Sea was a chaotic place. There were many powerful warriors here, and all kinds of people were here. Perhaps a seemingly weak martial artist could be a peerless old devil. For example, Luli was only at the second tribulation realm, but his comprehensive abilities were at the peak of the third tribulation. When he used the relic iron, he could even kill an average fourth tribulation warrior. It was said that there were tens of thousands of universes in the first heaven and thousands in the second heaven. The fourth heaven and above had collapsed. Powerful warriors of the entire universe were gathered in the third heaven. There used to be tens of thousands of races here, and there were as many powerful warriors as there were mountains and oceans. To be high profile here would only lead to death. I think I will arrive at the Hell Island in a day or so. At midnight, Luli arrived at a small island. He decided to take a rest. He had been using the trace of the great Tao and psychic power all the time. This was exhausting. Devil's Sea was too dangerous. He needed to stay awake. He needed a rest. Lord, take a rest. I will keep an eye out for you. Ho-san's vision had been broadened during the 2 days and 2 nights. They had been flying for a long time. Apart from some warships in the distance, they didn't run into anyone. Was it because they were lucky? Or did Luli have some special skill? Either way, Ho-san had regarded Luli as a god. He wanted to go to the Palace of Hell, and he could go with Luli. He was not powerful enough. Maybe the Palace of Hell would make an exception to promote him if he followed Luli. Ho-san was very respectful to Luli with the idea of cozying up to Luli. Okay. Luli sat under a tree to rest. He seemed to be in a trance, but he was actually using the trace of the great Tao to sense the surroundings. If Ho-san did anything, Luli would not show any mercy. Ho-san didn't do anything. He stayed on guard and was on high alert. He had been checking the surroundings with psychic power in case someone was sneaking up on him. After several hours of sensing, Luli finally let down his guard against Ho-san when it was almost dawn. This person had no ill intentions towards him. He was now activating the mark of the Great Path, so he was extremely sensitive. If Ho-san revealed any killing intent towards him, he would immediately be able to sense it. In the middle of the night, Ho-san glanced at him a few times, but his eyes were full of admiration and respect, without any killing intent. Luli was relieved. He stopped his investigation and decided to rest for a couple of hours before the sun rose. He had just rested for an hour when the sky began to brighten. In the distance, there were several sounds of breaking air. Then, four martial artists flew over like sharp swords. "Sir, there's a situation." Ho-san was alarmed at once. He quickly moved behind Luli. Luli opened his eyes. He didn't do anything. Instead, he stood up and concealed his chi and energy. The 4 people who came were all third tribulation martial artists. One of them was at the peak of the third tribulation, while the other 3 had pretty good auras. If they didn't have to fight, Luli really didn't want to fight. Therefore, he restrained his aura and pretended to be weak, hoping that the 4 of them would not pay attention to him. He was thinking too much. The people of Rakshasa Sea were soft and afraid of the hard. Other than friends, there were only enemies. They would start a fight and rob anyone they saw. If they couldn't win, they would run. The law of the jungle was perfectly demonstrated here. The 4 stopped in the sky above the island. They looked at each other with coldness on their faces. They flew down, and one of them shouted, "Hand over your interspatial rings and treasures. Or else, haha." Luli's expressions turned cold. It seemed that this fight was inevitable. He sent a message to Ho-san. "Run to the left. I can kill them all by myself. Run." Ho-san had complete trust in Luli. He flew up at once, and Luli followed him. They were running to the right. "You want to run?" The four of them sneered at Lu Li. They split into two teams and chased after Lu Li in pairs. Since Ho San was a powerful warrior at the third tribulation and Lu Li seemed to be at the second tribulation, the one at the peak of the third tribulation went after Ho San. On Lu Li's side, there were only two weaker ones at the third tribulation. Ha! This was what Lu Li wanted. He sneered to himself. He turned around and pretended that he was going to risk his life to fight against the other two. He controlled his speed, clenched his fists, and smashed at the two. Ha! The other two laughed when they saw Lu Li like this. They felt they were lambs running into two tigers. The two took out their weapons and looked at each other. They aimed at Lu Li's hands. They were going to cut off Lu Li's arms first and then play with him slowly. One of them had a saber and the other had a sword. They cut at Lu Li's arms respectively. Lu Li didn't dodge. He controlled his fists and continued to smash at the two. Clank, clank. When the two's weapons hit Lu Li's arms, there was a sound of metal clashing. The two's weapons were bounced off. While the two were stunned, Lu Li's fists suddenly sped up and smashed at them. Boom! The two were smashed away like cannonballs. One's head was smashed, and the other had a hole in his chest. Not even his armor could protect him. One of them died tragically, and the other one was badly wounded. He let out a miserable cry. The two were chasing Ho San. They stopped at the same time when they heard the cry and looked back in confusion. In addition to the two, Ho San was shocked as well. He was just cursing. Didn't Lu Li say he was going to deal with the four? Why were the two most powerful ones chasing after him? Only now did he realize it was Lu Li's tactic. What shocked him the most was Lu Li's abilities. He had thought Lu Li was only at the later stage of the third tribulation. He didn't expect that Lu Li could kill a warrior at the middle stage and a warrior at the later stage of the third tribulation in one move. Immeasurable. Thinking of Lu Li's speed and powerful perception, Ho San looked at Lu Li with even more admiration. Powerful warriors could always make people want to worship them, especially Lu Li, who was full of mystery. Who are you? The burly warrior at the peak of the third tribulation paused for a moment. He didn't do anything. Instead, he asked. Lu Li was only at the second tribulation realm, and he was so young. However, he could kill two of Ho San's companions in one move. Ho San was scared. Ho San was afraid that Lu Li was born in a big family. If he acted rashly, he might get into trouble. Why do you care who I am? Lu Li said lazily. He reached out a hand, curled his middle finger, and said, Don't you want to rob me? Come on, I have many treasures here. It will be up to you whether you can take them or not. Lu Li's actions made the warrior at the peak of the third tribulation more scared. He looked at the other warrior and said again, If you don't tell me your name, then I will have to offend you. My brothers cannot die in vain. Who do you think you are? Seeing that the man was afraid, Lu Li put on a proud expression and said coldly, Someone dares to rob me at the Devil's Sea? If you want to die, I will grant you your wish. Swarms of worms of the void appeared around Lu Li, covering the sky and covering the earth. The cauldron of 1,000 transformations in his hand turned into a saber. Killing intent spread out from him as he rushed toward the warrior at the peak of the third tribulation. Let's go. The warrior at the peak of the third tribulation was scared. At the Devil's Sea, everyone was susceptible to the soft approach, but afraid of the hard approach. Lu Li was so powerful that he thought Lu Li must have a powerful background. Therefore, the warrior at the peak of the third tribulation took the seriously injured warrior and fled to the distance. The other one followed in fear, leaving behind a headless body. You can do that? Ho San blinked. Lu Li killed one warrior and wounded another. How could he scare away a warrior at the peak of the third tribulation with just a few words? Chapter 2172. This fight made Lu Li realize the nature of the Devil's Sea. They were susceptible to the soft approach and afraid of the hard approach. Nobody dared to be too high-profile here or fight to the death at will. There were too many powerful warriors here. One careless move, and they could lose their lives. Lu Li didn't dare to stay here any longer. He flew down to take the interspatial ring from the dead body and then flew toward the Hell Island with Hosan. This time, he planned to fly to the Hell Island in one go. As long as he could join the Hell Palace, he would be safe for the time being. Just like before, Luli used the trace of Tao to explore. Once there was any sign of trouble, he would take a detour. It would take more time, but it was absolutely safe. It was a peaceful journey. Hosan didn't see anyone. Lu Li's scouting ability was amazing. Hosan looked at Lu Li, made up his mind, and said, "Lord, I want to follow you. From now on, you're my big brother. I will listen to whatever you say. I just want you to take care of me." Lu Li glanced at Hosan, but said nothing. Hosan was smart. He wanted to suck up to Lu Li. If he followed Lu Li, at least he wouldn't be bullied at the Hell Palace. Lu Li thought about it. He could take Hosan with him. He could have a follower to serve him tea and do some errands. But he didn't say yes right away. Things that were easy to get would not be cherished. As expected, Hosan became anxious as soon as Lu Li said nothing. He begged, "Boss, I'm not good at fighting, but I have some unique skills. For example, I can disguise myself and I can run away. From now on, I will do anything for you. I will do whatever you say." Lu Li still said nothing. Hosan was about to say something else when Lu Li was annoyed. He waved his hand and said, "Okay, shut up. We will talk about it later, depending on your performance at the Hell Palace." Okay. Thank you, boss." Hosan was overjoyed to see that Lu Li had changed his tone. As far as he could tell, Lu Li must be the descendant of some hidden, powerful warrior. Otherwise, he couldn't have so many miraculous abilities and such temperament at such a young age. Hosan suspected that Lu Li had some treasures with him. Otherwise, how could he wander around the Devil's Sea by himself? If he followed a good boss, at the very least, he would have someone to protect him in the Underworld Palace. Otherwise, given his battle prowess, he would be at the bottom of the Underworld Palace and would be bullied every day. It was peaceful along the way. Maybe it was because Lu Li was good at scouting, or maybe it was because of the battle there were few people around. After a day and a half, Lu Li and Sanho successfully arrived at the Hell Island. Is this an island? This looks like a continent. Looking at the endless land, Lu Li blinked in embarrassment. This island was way too big. It was probably 100 times larger than the Heavenly Devil Island. Hosan was very experienced. He explained, "The Rakshasa Sea is very big. It is about the size of a domain. Hell Island is ranked second. The island that the Mu clan occupies is ranked first. The spirit chi of heaven and earth on Hell Island is especially rich, and there are many peerless treasure lands, mystic realms, and void fragments. There's also a relic there that is said to have been left behind by the Arch. There are Tao runes left behind by the Arch." What? Lu Li was taken aback. And the Arch once stayed on a small island and left behind Tao runes? That was the Arch. Lu Li could learn some of the Tao runes he left behind, and he could soar. "Let's go." Lu Li put Sanho down and said, "You go ahead, and I will follow you. On the surface, you're my big brother. Do you understand?" Yes. Sanho understood that Lu Li was pretending to be weak again. He was hiding his abilities so that others would look down on him. At the critical moment, he could amaze the world with a brilliant feat by keeping a low profile. Lu Li would not attract attention or hatred. Sanho flew ahead, and Lu Li followed him. They flew to the center of the island. There were patrols outside the island. Before they got closer, they could see more than a dozen battleships flying around. Lu Li and Sanho's approach attracted the attention of the patrols. A battleship flew over. Dozens of warriors came out and surrounded Lu Li and Sanho. Hosan and Lu Li stopped. Sanho said with a flattering smile, "Brothers, don't get me wrong. We are here to seek shelter from the Hell Palace. My name is Sanho, and he is..." Sanho suddenly realized he didn't know Lu Li's name, so he stopped. Lu Li answered at once, "Lu Si." Sanho praised Lu Li's reaction. He continued with a smile, "We are all from the Water Sharks gang. Recently, our force was destroyed, and we have nowhere else to go. We want to join the Hell Palace and work for them. I hope you could take us in." Sanho Lucy? A warrior sized them up coldly and said with a mocking smile, "You want to join the Hell Palace when you are so weak? Do you think the Hell Palace is a place for beggars? Piss off, or I will kill you. Sanho was only at the initial stage of the third tribulation, and Luli seemed to be a second tribulation divine god. Those warriors were at the middle stage of the third tribulation. Naturally, they would look down on Sanho and Luli. Especially Luli, a second tribulation warrior, was at the bottom of the third heaven. Sanho was worried. This was what he was worried about at the very beginning. That was why he came with Luli. Now that Luli was hiding his abilities and the warriors of the Hell Palace looked down on them, Sanho didn't know what to do. He turned to Luli. Luli asked after some thoughts, "How can I join the Hell Palace? Defeat you?" Ha 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 ha. Luli's words made all the warriors laugh. Luli looked like a childish kid who didn't like being taught a lesson by an adult and wanted to provoke an adult. After the laughter died down, the warrior said in a pretentious manner, "Defeat me? If you can survive 3 moves from me, I will let you join the Hell Palace. How about that?" Okay. Luli agreed without hesitation. How could a warrior at the middle stage of the third tribulation boast so shamelessly? Luli couldn't hurt Luli even if he stood still and let the warrior blast at him for half a day, let alone 3 moves. Luli was smashed away. The warrior's mocking smile was even more obvious. He said, "Brother, don't force yourself. If I kill you, you won't be able to seek justice even if you go to the underworld. Come on, cut the crap," Luli said calmly. He wanted to keep a low profile, but that didn't mean he could be humiliated and belittled. How dare a warrior humiliate him? Okay, the warrior shouted and flew over. He didn't take out any weapon. He just used his hand as a saber with flames on it and hacked at Luli's head and chest. Bang! With a muffled sound, Luli trembled, but the warrior's hand was bounced off. The warriors nearby were ready to watch, but they were all stunned. There was no wound on Luli's chest. It was as if Luli was a mountain that could not be shaken. After a moment of surprise, the warrior felt humiliated. He took out a saber and hacked at Luli's shoulder. With another muffled sound, Luli was knocked back for more than 100 feet. Apart from his torn robe, there was no wound on his shoulder. Supreme immortal body. Chapter 2173. The team leader gave him a token. At the same time, he asked a sergeant to take them to the island. Han Sun stared at Luli with hatred. He was humiliated by Luli and wouldn't be able to hold his head up high for a while. Naturally, he would hate Luli. Luli didn't mind. He was just a sergeant. Luli wouldn't even be afraid of their team leader. The team leader was only at the peak of the third tribulation, and Luli could kill him easily. Luli saw sentries everywhere on their way in. This place deserved to be a big force. It was heavily guarded. Maybe it was because of the previous battle that spies might sneak in. After flying for an hour, a city appeared in front of them. It was a big city with tighter security. Warriors were stationed on the city walls, and there were many sentries patrolling nearby. Luli and Ho San entered the city easily because they were escorted by a sergeant. There were many people in the city, both men and women, but none of them looked relaxed. Maybe it was because of the recent battle and too many people had died. There were many special races here. They had taken human forms, but kept the characteristics of their own races. Some people were surprised to see Luli and Ho San coming in. Luli's realm was too low. How could someone like him join the Hell Palace? The Hell Palace is powerful as a whole. Luli took a look. Almost all of them were warriors at the third tribulation. Not one of them was at the second tribulation. He even saw 1 or 2 warriors at the fourth tribulation. They were taken to a castle where there was an old man in a black robe with a dead face. He looked at Luli and Ho San as if they were 2 prisoners, which made Luli and Ho San uncomfortable. "Lord Zhang, these 2 are here to join the Hell Palace. Leader Wang has tested them," the sergeant reported. Lord Zhang waved his hand, and the sergeant left. Luli and Ho San stood there in silence. Lord Zhang didn't pay attention to them. He continued to deal with the documents. Luli and Ho San kept a low profile. They stood there quietly. They had been standing there for 4 hours, but Lord Zhang didn't even look at them. Luli was so upset that he wanted to vomit blood. He had to lower his head when he was under someone else's roof. Luli had to wait. As for Ho-san, he didn't dare to say anything. He had always been a nobody. He had been bullied a lot when he was in a small faction and was used to it. 2 hours later, Lord Zhang finally looked up. He glanced over to Lu Li and Ho-san, confused. He didn't know why Chief Commander Wang would let them in. An early-stage, third tribulation martial artist and a second tribulation martial artist. Were these two Commander Wang's relatives? Recently, the war had just ended, and there were too many things to do, so he didn't bother to ask more. He threw out 2 jade talismans and said, "Go to the Internal Affairs Hall and report to Hall Leader Chun." Internal Affairs Hall. Luli didn't know much about this, but Ho-san looked like he was about to cry. Luli could tell that the Internal Affairs Division was not a good job. Seeing that the two of them were not moving, Lord Zhang snorted coldly. Ho-san quickly bowed and pulled Luli out. Ho-san hung the jade talisman on his waist after he left. Luli did as he was told. While walking, Ho-san explained to Luli, "The Internal Affairs Hall sounds nice, but it is actually chores. It is the worst hall of all the forces. I think we will be sent to do manual labor." Manual labor? Luli touched his nose in embarrassment. He wanted to keep a low profile and find a quiet place to cultivate. But it didn't mean that he wanted to do chores. How could he have time to cultivate if he was ordered around and did some manual labor? That being said, he had just joined the Hell Palace, so he couldn't act rashly. He had to go and take a look first. Ho-san knew the distribution of the halls of the forces. He found the Internal Affairs Hall after a short walk. The hall was small, just like the castles. It was in a corner of the city with people coming in and out. It was a busy place. Lu Li and Ho-san went in. There was also an old man who was busy dealing with official business behind a desk. Ho-san cupped his fists and said, "Are you Lord Chun? We have just joined the Hell Palace. Lord Zhang asked us to report here." "Oh, wait a minute." Hall Leader Chun waved his hand. They waited for several hours. There were people coming in to report and people going out. Lu Li and Ho-san seemed to have been forgotten by Hall Leader Chun. "Lord, we are short of people in the captive camp. Please give us some." A burly man walked in and reported. Hall Leader Chun raised his head and said coldly, "So many people died this time. Were we not short of people? Don't you know how to whip those captives for being disobedient? Whip them more, and they will be obedient." "Sir, there are too many prisoners of war. Even if you want to draw them, you need someone to draw them," the burly man said bitterly. "Figure out yourself." Hall Leader Chun looked up and suddenly saw Lu Li and Ho-san. He thought about it and said, "Momo, I will give you these two. I don't have one more. If anything happens to the captives, you come back with your head in your hands." "All right." Momo looked at Lu Li and Ho-san. They were weak, but they were warriors after all. It would be fine for them to go with the team. "Come with me." He waved his hand and walked out. Lu Li and Ho-san looked at each other in confusion. Captive camp? Looking after the captives? Ho-san didn't know much about it either. Their force was weak, and they couldn't take down the captives when they fought others. They walked into another castle where there was a teleportation formation. Seeing the two dilly-dallying, the muscles on Momo's face twitched. He shouted, "Are you dead? Can't you walk faster?" Luli was speechless. This leader was hot-tempered. He must be angry because he had been looking after the captive for years. He would beat and swear from time to time. Lu Li and Ho-san caught up and entered the teleportation formation. After a flash of white light, they appeared in a valley. There were many buildings here, but they were all single-story houses. There were only 3 castles in the corner. Many people here were tied up by chains. There must be some powerful runes on the chains to seal their abilities. Otherwise, how could they be tied up by chains? At a glance, Luli could tell that there were at least tens of thousands of people in ragged clothes. Many of them were wounded. Luli even saw some warriors whipping people with red whips and cursing. "Yellow Tooth, come here." Momo waved his hand. A warrior with yellow teeth walked over. He cupped his fists and said with a smile, "Good day, Commander Mo. Please give me your orders. I will leave these 2 to you. Teach them how to look after the captives." Momo waved his hand and went into the castle. After Momo left, Yellow Tooth stopped smiling. He glanced at Lu Li and Ho Sen coldly and said with disdain, "Come with me." Is there no one in the Hall of Internal Affairs? How come you sent two people like this in? Lu Li and Ho San were embarrassed. This man called them useless in front of them. If they were outside, Lu Li would have lost his temper. On their way, Yellow Tooth introduced the situation to them. Even though his tone was not friendly, he made the situation clear. Lu Li felt a headache after he heard that. They would have to work all day long here. There was no time for cultivation. More importantly, Chapter 2174. When the two forces went to war, not only warriors from the headquarters, but also the affiliated forces. The total number of warriors from both sides was over 1,000,000. Many died and many were captured. If the captives were willing to be ransomed, then it would be easier. If not, then they would have to work as coolies. The captives could not be kept for free. Their divine energy was sealed, but their bodies were strong enough to be coolies. This was a mine with flame crystals underground. It was painful to dig out the flame crystals because they were so hot. Digging them out was like pulling chestnuts out of fire. Naturally, the Hell Palace would not do this themselves. Therefore, the captives could be put to good use. They could do the hard work without paying divine stones. How nice would that be? However, everything had its pros and cons. The captives were good coolies, but guarding them was a problem. The captives knew very well that they could either be coolies for the rest of their lives or die here. The Devil's Sea was a cruel place. There was no sense of humanity here. The higher-ups of the Hell Palace would not be kind enough to reduce their sentences or set them free. There was no way out and no hope. Every day was torture. Apart from doing things, they would be beaten, scolded, and abused. Naturally, the captives would feel hopeless. Since they didn't want to live, they would make trouble and try to find a way out. The Hell Palace had lost too many warriors in the war. Many warriors of the captives were mobilized. There were only about 1,000 warriors left. That being said, there was a powerful warrior in charge of the captives. All the captives had their divine energy and soul sealed. The higher-ups of the Hell Palace didn't think they could make any trouble. What was more? So what if something big happened? There was a city near the valley, and there were a large number of experts in the city. As long as something happened in the valley, those experts and the army would immediately move out and kill all the prisoners of war who caused trouble. The higher-ups of the Hell Palace didn't take it seriously, but Lu Li had to. He felt something was off after staying in the valley for 3 days. The hostility in the valley was so strong that even Ho San could feel it, let alone Lu Li. Momo went to ask for reinforcements because he felt something was off. Too few warriors could not serve as a deterrent. The war had just ended and too many had died. The captives were restless. What was more, many warriors of the Hell Palace had lost their lives as well. Therefore, the warriors were not friendly to the captives. This was the most desperate time for the captives. They didn't want to be coolies or be tortured for the rest of their lives. They wanted to fight back, to regain their freedom, to escape, or to die. Even though the captives didn't seem to be doing anything, Lu Li could tell from their eyes and their chi and energy that they would do something. They might already be plotting something. The only thing that reassured Lu Li was that there was a powerful warrior in charge in the valley. This expert didn't care about anything. He cultivated in a castle and never came out. According to Ho San's information, that person was at least in the middle stage of the fourth tribulation. He had a very powerful divine power and precious treasures. Because the divine power and soul power of the tens of thousands of captives were sealed, their realms could not be seen. However, according to Ho San's information, there were a few fourth tribulation martial artists here. Although the divine elixirs of these people had been destroyed, they were still fourth tribulation martial artists after all. Who knew if they would have any strange magical powers or abilities? Ho San, listen up. Lu Li and Ho San were walking in a tunnel. Lu Li said, "Do not mistreat the captives. Be nice to them." Why? Ho San didn't understand. Many of the captives were unruly, and they didn't have enough manpower. If they couldn't subdue the captives, how could they manage them? Only by subduing the captives could it be easier to manage them in the future? Don't worry about it. Just listen to me. Are you the boss, or am I? Luli said coldly. He could see further than Hosan. Hosan just wanted to live here, while Luli saw this as a temporary place to stay, a place where he could leave at any time. Since he could leave at any time, Luli wouldn't think about how to survive. Instead, he wanted to stay alive. The captives could see that Luli and Ho-san were friendly to the captives. In case something happened, they might be able to stay alive. All the armies were brutal, but Luli and Ho-san were gentle. Nobody cared about the icing on the cake. Providing timely help would leave a lasting impression. Therefore, the captives would be grateful if Luli and Ho-san were nice to the captives. They could save their lives when something went wrong. Crack! From the front came a crack of a whip. Soon, Yellowtooth was swearing. Luli checked with psychic power. One of the captives was punched and kicked by Yellowtooth. He was whipped more than a dozen times, and his bones were exposed. They were in a small team with only 30 people. The other sergeants were whipping the captives nearby as well. Luli didn't know the specific reason, but it seemed that one of the captives was a bit slow. Then, one of the soldiers whipped him, and the captive glared at him with a fierce look. This was not a big deal, but for Yellowtooth and the others, it was a big deal. They must subdue the captives completely. Otherwise, it would be difficult to manage them in the future. Everyone would be exhausted and accidents could happen. Soon, the team of captives in the front was covered in blood. The whip was specially made. It couldn't kill, but every time it did, it would be painful as if someone was being cut by a knife. It was uncomfortable. Hosan was obedient to Luli. He didn't do anything rashly. He stood outside, and Luli watched from a distance. Yellowtooth whipped for a while and stopped for fear that someone might die. He glanced over and saw that none of the captives dared to show any hatred in their eyes. He nodded with satisfaction. He looked around, and his eyes fell on Hosan and Luli. He frowned and said, "Why don't you come over?" Yellowtooth's intention was clear. He wanted Luli and Hosan to whip as well. The two newbies were so ignorant. What were they doing in the army? Were they here for nothing? Luli didn't say anything. He signaled Hosan with his eyes. Hosan thought about it and said in a weak voice, "Lord, I am scared of blood." Scared of blood. This excuse was too far-fetched. How could a warrior be scared of blood? Luli was treating Yellowtooth like an idiot. Yellowtooth was enraged. He whipped Hosan's face, leaving a bloody mark on his face. Yellowtooth whipped Hosan and asked Luli, "Fourth brother Lu, are you scared of blood as well?" Yellowtooth's eyes were filled with ferocity. If Luli couldn't give him a good reason, then he would have to teach them a lesson. It seemed that the two newbies didn't know about his prestige. If he couldn't even control his subordinates, how could he lead a team in the future? Luli cupped his fists and said, "Lord, I am not scared of blood, but I think we should treat these captives better. After all, they are working for us. We don't have to mistreat them over such a small matter. If they are injured, they can't help us anymore, right? No, damn you." Chapter 2175. Yellowtooth wanted to establish his dominance, but so did Luli. He was here to stay for a while, not to do hard labor. As long as he could subdue Yellowtooth, his life would be much better in the future. Therefore, when Yellowtooth's whip came, Luli didn't dodge, nor did he stand there to be hit. Instead, he reached out with one hand and grabbed the whip. Then he released his strength and pulled. Whoosh! Yellowtooth didn't expect that Luli would dare to fight back. A strong force came from his hand. The whip flew out of his hand and was in Luli's. "How dare you?" Yellowtooth flew into a rage. He rushed towards Luli, determined to teach him a lesson. However, Luli did something strange at that moment. He turned around and ran away. That's right. He ran to the back and disappeared in an instant. Yellowtooth paused for a second and then became even angrier. Luli didn't take him seriously at all. Did Luli still respect him as the team leader? Without any hesitation, Yellowtooth chased after Luli. If he couldn't beat Luli to the ground today, he would not be Yellowtooth. Yellowtooth was at the later stage of the third tribulation, so he was quite fast. He caught up with Luli soon. However, after more than 3 miles, he noticed that Luli had stopped in front of him. Luli was looking at him calmly with mockery in his eyes. Seeing Luli's eyes, Yellowtooth was about to lose his mind. Whoosh! A saber appeared in his hand, and he hacked at Luli's shoulder. He wanted to cut off one of Luli's hands to teach him a lesson and to let him know that this team leader was not to be messed with. Luli smiled lightly. He didn't dodge. He just stood there and let Yellowtooth hack at him. Yellowtooth's fighting ability was quite good. His saber was glowing with 4 different lights. He had integrated the 4 fundamental meanings. Luli still didn't dodge. He let the saber land on him. With a muffled sound, Luli was knocked back for more than 30 feet. The armor in front of his chest was cracked, but there was only a faint trace of blood on his skin. Surprisingly, it was just a scratch. Yellowtooth was stunned. He was already confused that Luli didn't dodge. Now, he was even more surprised. Yellowtooth was startled for a moment, but Luli had already dashed over. Luli was so fast that Yellowtooth was scared. In a blink of an eye, Luli had grabbed Yellowtooth's neck and lifted him up. Luli's eyes were filled with coldness. He was filled with murderous intent. His emotionless eyes made Yellowtooth shiver. He had seen the look in her eyes before. Once, when there was a riot in the captive camp, Patriarch Xie, who was in charge here, took action and killed thousands. The look in her eyes was the same as Luli's. Being carried by Luli like a little chick, Yellowtooth could move his hands and feet, but he didn't dare to move at all. He believed that if he did anything rash, he would become a corpse in the next second. Yellowtooth, listen up, Luli said coldly. I just want to find a quiet place to cultivate. I don't want to make trouble. Don't push me. I can do anything when I'm desperate. If you're friendly to me, I'll always treat you as my captain. If you're not friendly to me, it'll be easy for me to kill you, understand? Understood, understood, understood. Yellowtooth nodded like a chick pecking at grains. At this moment, he finally understood why Luli ran away. Luli didn't want to embarrass him in front of a group of people. In other words, what Luli said was true. He just wanted to cultivate in a low-key manner. He didn't want to make trouble, but messing with him would result in serious consequences. Well, that's a good boy. Luli put Yellowtooth down, patted him on the shoulder, and said, Captain Yellowtooth, be a good captain. Don't bother me if there's nothing important. I won't cause you any trouble, understand? Also, let me remind you, treat these captives well. I have a feeling something is going to happen. If something happens, whoever mistreated them will end badly. Yellowtooth was not used to Luli's sudden change in attitude. Remembering Luli's words, his heart skipped a beat. It seemed to be true. Recently, the captives were not stable. Something big might happen. Let's go. Don't let our brothers wait for too long. I will play along with you later. Luli continued to pat Yellowtooth's shoulder. Yellowtooth put on a smile that was uglier than crying. Jiang-Yi adjusted himself quickly and immediately swaggered forward. However, his footsteps were still a little shaky. When he got back to the front, Yellowtooth looked back at Luli. Seeing Luli's frightened face, Yellowtooth secretly praised Luli's acting skills. Also, Luli's armor was broken. On the surface, it seemed that he had been taught a lesson by Yellowtooth. Fourth Lu, because you are new, I will teach you a lesson this time. If there is a next time, I will destroy you. Do you understand? Yellowtooth said with a snort, but he kept glancing at Luli, afraid that Luli would be angry. Luli nodded and bowed cooperatively. Don't worry, sir. I won't do it again. I won't do it again. Let's go. Yellowtooth strode forward with arrogance. The captives also got up and moved on. The other sergeants looked at Luli and Third Ho with mockery and contempt. Only Third Ho sneered. He knew Luli's abilities very well. Also, Luli didn't have any injuries. Yellowtooth would glance at Luli from time to time when he was talking. How could Third Ho not know? Clearly, Luli had beaten Yellowtooth into submission. They were acting. Third Ho secretly gave Luli a thumbs up. Luli slapped the back of Third Ho's head. Third Ho grinned. He admired Luli even more. After the captives were sent to the underground tunnel, Lu Li saw the flame crystals. Even though he had suffered a lot, he still couldn't bear to look at them. There was a huge flame crystal mine underground. It was filled with dark red flames. Lu Li felt like he was about to be burned, even though his body was strong. The captives were forced to dig in the fire. If they couldn't dig out 100 flame crystals, they would stay in there forever. They might even be burned alive. There were serious casualties among the captives. Some committed suicide. They died every day. There were 10 pits at the bottom of the mine, all filled with corpses after the captives were sent down. There were people guarding them. Lu Li and the others didn't go back right away. Instead, they rested where they were. After some time, the captives who had completed their tasks would be sent up. In the future, Lu Li and the others would have to change shifts to guard the captives. Their task was to guard the captives, supervise them to dig out the flame crystals, and patrol around. Due to the lack of manpower, they had to work almost every day. They had no time to cultivate or rest. Get up and go on patrol. Yellowtooth shouted after they rested for an hour. Seeing that everyone was so lazy, he scolded them at once. They had to stand up and go on patrol nearby. Lord, I'm not feeling well. I want to take a rest. Lu Li wanted to cultivate, but the underground tunnel was too spacious. It would take more than half a day to patrol. Naturally, he didn't want to. Yellowtooth was surprised by Lu Li's words. He thought about it and said, Really? Do you want to go back and have some rest? Yeah. The other dozens of warriors looked at Yellowtooth as if he was a freak. Since when did Yellowtooth become so easy to talk to? In the old days, if someone talked to him like this, he would have been whipped. That's good. Thank you, Lord. Chapter 21:76. Lu Li returned to the bungalow that he was living in. Although it was a bungalow, it was still a room for one person. This made Lu Li feel more comfortable. If he had to share a room with a group of people, he would be quite depressed. Lu Li went back to his room to cultivate at once. He cultivated divine energy and soul at the same time. At the same time, he took elixirs to refine his body. He had collected some elixirs before he came, but they were average ones. For him, the progress was slow. It was better than nothing. It was always good to be able to make some progress. The path to the supreme body was arduous. The further one went, the more difficult it would be. The resources required would increase exponentially. If the supreme body was divided into 9 levels, the first level would require 1 piece of divine source, the second 10 pieces, the third 1,000 pieces, the 7th and 8th level would require 1,000,000 pieces. Divine source was just a way of saying. It was a representation of resources. How many resources had Lu Li used up to this point? How many elixirs had he consumed? He didn't know how many resources he would need to accumulate to complete the supreme body. Therefore, over the past 1,000,000 years, only a few warriors had completed the supreme body. But every one of them had a supreme body, and their abilities were incredible. It was easy for them to become emperors. Lu Li didn't think too far ahead. He didn't care if he could cultivate the supreme body or not. What he cared about was if he could go to the Dragon Rebel Valley, if he could find Lu Li, and if he could complete the task given by the demon. Yellowtooth and the others came back after cultivating quietly for 2 days. Hosen wanted to talk to Lu Li, but Lu Li had activated the inhibition formation in his room. Unless Hosan attacked the inhibition formation in the room, he could not alert Lu Li. Hosan didn't dare to disturb Lu Li. He knew that Lu Li was cultivating. Disturbing him would infuriate him. Yellowtooth didn't go to Lu Li or Momo either. Momo would despise him. What was the point of being the team leader if he couldn't even defeat his subordinates? He could replace him and make Lu Li the team leader. Lu Li was cooperative and respected him. Lu Li didn't make any trouble. Yellowtooth couldn't afford to offend someone like him. Otherwise, not only would he lose his position as the team leader, he would lose his life. The team went on with their mission after 2 days of rest. Yellowtooth asked Ho-san to find Lu Li, but Lu Li only said that he was not feeling well and needed a rest for a month. Yellowtooth's expression became bitter. Lu Li was making things difficult for him, but what could he do? He could only lead the team and not force Lu Li to participate. The other soldiers in the squad were all astonished. Why did Yellowtooth's temper suddenly change? If this went on, where would his dignity as a captain go? However, no one dared to ask too much, or else Yellowtooth would definitely flip out. One day later, a rumor spread out. The reason why Lu Li was so arrogant was that he had someone backing him up. It was said that he was the illegitimate son of an elder. Because he hit someone and broke the rules, he was sent here to be punished for a period of time. Once the news spread, the entire team immediately came to a realization. He was an elder's illegitimate son. Even though he had been banished here, he was still a tiger. Not everyone could provoke him. Not to mention Yellowtooth. Even Momo couldn't afford to offend him. With such a reason, everyone could accept it. Hosen laughed when he heard the rumor. Lu Li didn't even know where the Hell Island was. Was he the illegitimate son of a patriarch? This was obviously a rumor spread by Yellowtooth to give himself a way out. Having strength is awesome, Hosen exclaimed. Lu Li's life was better, but he still had to do hard labor. However, because of his relationship with Lu Li, nobody dared to bully him. Hosen secretly praised himself for his wise decision in the past. Time flew by. Soon, Lu Li had been in the captive camp for 2 months. He had been cultivating in his room and didn't go out for a single time. Many people in Yellowtooth's team had forgotten that they had a teammate. If Yellowtooth didn't report it, nobody else would know. Lu Li was earning a salary here and didn't have to do anything. The situation in the captive camp was getting worse. During this time, the iron and blood suppression didn't tame the captives. Instead, their hatred was getting deeper. Many people looked at the sergeants with unforgettable hatred, which could make people feel cold. Momo couldn't sit still anymore. He went to the internal affair hall for help again. He was afraid that he couldn't control the situation with so few people. Also, the surveillance was not strong enough. If the captives were to play tricks, Patriarch Xie alone wouldn't be enough. Lu Li came out after cultivating for 2 months. This was the second time he went out for duty with Yellowtooth. This made the rest of the teammates very surprised. Did this guy have a stroke today? Or was he too bored in his room and came out for some fresh air? Lu Li was not bored. He came out to check the situation. He walked around and sighed to himself. The hatred in the eyes of the captives was even more unforgettable. Once something unexpected happened, it would be a big mess. Fortunately, Yellowtooth was obedient to him. This couple treated the captives with a better attitude. Even though they would scold and beat the captives, they were not as cruel as the other teams. The captives looked at them with softer eyes. Lu Li followed the team in silence. He went to the flame mine and patrolled around with the team. The flame mine was a large place with exits everywhere. The purpose of patrolling was to prevent someone from stealing the flame crystals. 2 hours later, Lu Li suddenly stopped. He was standing in a huge pit. He used psychic power to check and found that it was filled with bodies and bones, too many to count. The bodies were burnt and smelly. Some of them looked like burnt wood. You go first. I will catch up with you later, Lu Li said to Yellowtooth, who was surprised. What was so interesting about the bodies and bones? But since Lu Li had said so, Yellowtooth could not say more. He left with the team. Lu Li was not a freak. It was just that he sensed a trace of life when he used a trace of Tao. He noticed that someone was not completely dead. He was not being kind. He was just interested in this person. This person reminded him of Lu Ling. Back then, Lu Ling was burned to death as well. But in the end, she rose from the ashes. This person felt the same. On the surface, this person was burnt, but his vitality was coming back. However, he was hiding it with a special skill. If it were not for the trace of Tao, Lu Li would not have sensed it. After a while, Lu Li suddenly said, "Stop pretending. I can see it all." One of the burnt people suddenly opened his eyes. He stared at Lu Li coldly and said, "I didn't know that you were so perceptive. I have tried my best to control it, but you still saw me. Kill me. I have no divine energy left in me. I am no match for you." "Why would I kill you?" Lu Li said with a smile. "But if I can see you, others can as well. What is more, even if nobody sees you, do you think you can run away now that you have divine energy?" That person was surprised. He didn't expect that Luli would spare his life. Was he still a warrior of the captive camp? He did not know the reason, but he knew this was a chance. He thought about it and said, "Kid, do you have an interspatial artifact? Take me in. As long as you can buy me a month, I will reward you handsomely." "You are overthinking," Luli said with a smile. "You have nothing now. What can you give me?" This person's treasures, an interspatial ring, had been taken away. He had nothing. Luli was not stupid enough to take such a risk. "Yes." Chapter 2177. Luli didn't care about the captive camp, but he knew that covering up for captives and helping them escape was punishable by death. Once found out, the captive would die and his family would be implicated. Luli didn't want to kill this man, and he wasn't obliged to help him either. They were captives. Now that they had joined the fight, they must accept the consequences of failure. That being said, if this man could offer a good price, Luli would be interested. For example, the amazing skill he was talking about. Luli was cultivating a supreme body. A strong body was important to him. If he could acquire a skill that could make his body 10 times stronger in a short time, then the risk would be worth it. But Luli didn't show it on his face. He said calmly, "Tell me first. I want to see if the skill is as you say. You can give me a general idea, and I will be able to judge." "Okay, I will tell you the formula." The old man told Luli without hesitation. The formula was not easy to understand. Luli was lost in thought. An hour later, he nodded and said, "Yes, it is a powerful skill. We can talk about it. But I have one condition." "Say it." The old man sounded excited. As far as he could tell, Luli was from the captive camp, and he seemed to have a high status. The old man was just a warrior. He asked his team leader to go first, and the team leader was quite obedient. With Luli's help, the old man could have a comfortable month. Luli said, "I need to put some bugs near your soul. I am afraid that you will kill me. You are my savior. Why would I cheat you?" The old man replied. After some thoughts, he said, "It is understandable that you are worried. Okay, I promise you. Deal." Luli dashed into the pile of corpses. He dug out the old man and took him into the mountain. The mountain was safe. Even if someone were to check, they wouldn't be able to tell. Luli could cultivate in his room for a month, and the deal would be done. Soon, Luli caught up with Yellowtooth and the others. Yellowtooth threw Luli a look. Yellowtooth explained in a low voice, there's a bead in one of the bodies. I think it is worth some money. None of you found it. I picked it up." "TSK, TSK," Yellowtooth exclaimed. There was envy in his eyes, but it was obviously an act. He was trying to please Luli. The rest of the people didn't dare to reveal too many expressions on their faces, but in their hearts, there was some disdain. What good things could there be in a pile of corpses? If there was anything good, it would have been picked up by the people who dumped the corpses. On the contrary, Luli was even happier. He was hiding a captive of war. If he was exposed, nobody could save him. Luli didn't leave rashly after he walked around with the others. Instead, he followed the actions of the major tribes. 2 days later, he escorted a group of captives up. After he came back, Luli said that he was not feeling well again and that he had a rest for 2 months. Yellowtooth didn't mind, but Luli's presence made him uncomfortable. He wanted Luli to stay in the room and not come out. Luli dashed in and fed the burnt man some elixirs. Then, he put some worms of the void into the man's soul. The void worm was in the soul. As long as it moved, this person's soul would be annihilated. There was no protection in this person's soul. Therefore, Luli had control over this person's life. Time moved on. While cultivating, Luli kept an eye on this person. This person was recovering fast. His physical body was strong. As he cultivated, his chi and energy were growing as well. Luli sensed that this person was a warrior of the fourth tribulation. Luli was nervous. If a warrior of the fourth tribulation were to run away, it would be a big mess. Once it was investigated, the consequences would be severe. But what could Luli do at this point? Should he kill this person and throw him into the pile of corpses? This person had no quarrel with Luli, and they had a deal. If Luli did that, Luli would feel guilty. But after 1 month, this person would be healed. What should Luli do? Let this person go? Or to keep him hidden? Either way, that was not a good idea. Luli felt the risk was worth it when he thought of that incredible skill. His physical body was strong. If his strength could be improved by 10 times in a short time, then his physical body would be as strong as a warrior at the initial stage of the fourth tribulation. That would be horrifying. Half a month later, Luli noticed that this person had recovered by more than half. Luli went back to the mountain and said directly, "It has been half a month. You have recovered a bit. Can you give me the skill now?" Now, the old man's skin had grown back. Even though it was new skin, he still looked old. The old man thought about it and said, "I said a month later. Don't worry, you will get it. I am not a cultivator of the supreme body. I have learned the skill, but it is not meaningful." "No," Luli said stubbornly, "you must give it to me now. I am afraid that I will not be able to control you when you recover. Since I can help you hide for half a month, I will continue to do so. Otherwise, if you tell others, I will die for sure. I will not harm you. If I wanted to, I would kill you as soon as I find you." "Well, okay." The old man thought for a moment and said straightforwardly, "Kid, you saved my life this time. Even if you want to take my life back, this old man will accept it. I got this skill from the former residence of an emperor. It is quite famous, but it is only an incomplete scroll." "Incomplete scroll?" Luli asked in surprise. "An incomplete scroll can increase your physical strength by 10 times? If it is complete, then it will be dozens of times stronger. 100 times." The old man said with certainty, "I just said, this divine skill is very heaven-defying and very famous, because it was created by a great emperor. This emperor cultivated the supreme body. He was said to be invincible in the third plane of heaven. It is a pity that he was killed later." Luli was taken aback. Out of instinct, he asked, "Are you talking about Emperor Z?" "Yes." The old man nodded and said, "Back in the days, Emperor Z was terrifyingly powerful. He once unified the entire chilly winterland. Unfortunately, he was killed by Emperor Yang and another emperor. I got this skill from one of his former residences. It was carved in a mountain. It is a pity that the mountain was smashed, and I only got a part of it." "I see." Luli nodded. This made sense. It was similar to what he knew about Emperor Z. Luli didn't expect that the old man had obtained Emperor Z's skill. The old man sighed and continued, "This technique is actually very famous. It's called the dragon fighting technique. The purple sovereign never comprehended the true meaning and only cultivated his physical body. With the dragon fighting technique and the other 2 battle techniques, he suppressed many emperor-level experts. If he hadn't died, perhaps he would have become the next Saint Emperor." "Impressive." Luli sighed. He didn't expect Emperor Z to be so powerful and horrifying. The old man didn't know. Emperor Z's body was still in his interspatial ring. If he took out Emperor Z's body, the entire Devil's Sea would be shaken. "Okay, I will teach you the skill. I will not hide it from you. Whether you can learn it or not is up to you," the old man said after a pause. Luli nodded and memorized everything the old man said. After a while, he felt the skill was smooth. The old man didn't lie to him. "Go and study it." Chapter 2178. Luli had never heard of Luo Sha. He was not from the Devil's Sea. He didn't even know the name of the master of the Hell Palace, let alone Luo Sha. Luo Sha was a celebrity at the Hell Sea. He was the leader of a force. Back in the days, he was well known at the Devil's Sea for his abilities. However, later on, he was severely injured and his pellet was destroyed. It was not a big deal for his pellet to be destroyed at the third heaven. But Luo Sha was poisoned and passed out for 3 years. 3 years was a long time. Luo Sha's bodily functions had atrophied. Later on, when the pellet was restored, he could not return to his peak, and there was little chance for him to make further progress. Because of this, Luo Sha was depressed for a long time. Many powerful warriors of his force left. His force became a small force, and in the end, they attached themselves to the Palace of Devils. Naturally, All the small forces attached to the Palace of Devils were sent out for this battle. Luo Sha was the first to do so. Though he did not make much progress over the years, he was a fourth tribulation warrior after all. He was ferocious, and he killed many powerful warriors of the Hell Palace. Naturally, he became the first to stand out. A powerful patriarch of the Hell Palace took action in person and injured Luo Sha. Then, Luo Sha came here. Luli didn't care about Luo Sha. As soon as he went out, he began to cultivate the dragon skill. This skill was incredible. The sooner he could learn it, the better. Something could go wrong here at any time. Luli had the ability to protect himself with his strong abilities. The skill was abstruse. Luli had been studying it for 5 days, but he had gained nothing. He could not understand it at all. Some of the things in it were so abstruse that Luli couldn't figure them out, even after several days. Luli was not in a hurry. If it were so easy to learn such a skill, then it wouldn't be such a skill. The more difficult it was, the more powerful it would be. Luli entered the dreamland. He forgot everything outside and focused on the dragon skill. There was no concept of time during cultivation. Half a month was just a snap of the fingers. Half a month later, the inhibition formation on the mountain began to tremble. Luli woke up. He used psychic power to check. Luo Sha's wounds were almost healed. Divine energy was surging. He must be ready to leave. Buzzing, Luli dashed in and asked, "Lord Luo, what is your plan now?" Luli naturally wanted to see if Luo Sha would get him into trouble. Once Luo Sha was captured and interrogated, Luli would be in danger. Luo Sha smiled faintly and said, "Don't worry, little friend. You saved my life, so I won't harm you. Send me to the underground mine. I will think of a way to escape. Even if I am captured, I will never betray you. I swear in the name of the Lord God." "All right." Luli nodded. Sending Luo Sha underground was a good idea. Even if he was captured, he could say that he wasn't dead and heal himself in the mines. "Wait here. I'll bring you down when they're on duty." Luli waved his hand and left the mountain to cultivate. A couple of days later, Yellowtooth and the others came back. Luli stopped cultivating and waited for them to go on duty. 2 days later, Yellowtooth set off with his team. Luli immediately went out to follow. Yellowtooth became uncomfortable, but he didn't dare to say anything. Luli followed the team. "Boss, are you bored?" Hosen moved closer to Luli with a grin and said, "We have holidays. How about we take a few days off and go to the Hell City? I heard that there's a Hall of Clouds over there. All the girls there are top-notch. Let's go and have some fun." "Piss off." Luli slapped Hosen's head. Hosen was always thinking about these kinds of things. No wonder he couldn't make progress. "How are the captives doing?" Luli asked. This was what worried him the most. The smile on Hosen's face froze. He replied, "It's getting worse. A few days ago, there was a riot among the captives. But they were suppressed and hundreds were killed. Well, Commander Mo transferred 1,000 warriors here. I think it will be fine." "That's good." Luli nodded. 1,000 more warriors would be a greater deterrent to the prisoners of war. After all, this was 1,000 warriors with full abilities. The captives had no divine energy and were tied up. They couldn't make something out of nothing even if they wanted to. Luli found an excuse to sneak away. Then he went to the depth of the mine and let Luo Sha out. "Thank you." Luo Sha bowed and said seriously, "Words cannot express my gratitude. As long as I can escape, I will owe you my life." Luli waved his hand and said, "It's not that serious. Lord Luo, have a safe trip. I will leave now." Luli waved his hand, and the bug flew out from Luo Sha's soul. Now that the deal was done, Luli didn't have to keep his guard up against Luo Sha. Even if Luo Sha was captured, he wouldn't have to do anything as long as he didn't give Luli up. "By the way, my friend," Luo Sha thought for a moment and asked, "I still don't know little friend's name. Also, little friend, don't reveal that mountain casually." Luo Sha vaguely mentioned a name and added, "You know the Mu family at the Devil's Sea, right? They are descendants of King Mu. They are not of the direct bloodline, but they are still descendants." Luli was surprised. Then he understood. Luo Sha had seen through the identity of the mountain and provided him with an important piece of information. Of the forces at the Devil's Sea, The Mu family was the most powerful. Luli didn't know that Luo Sha was a descendant of King Mu. If they knew he had the 9 strange mountain, they would send out their entire family to hunt him down. Thank you. This time, it was Lu Li's turn to bow to Luo Sha. This piece of information was too important. If he didn't know, and the 9 strange mountain was revealed in the future, he wouldn't even know how he died. My friend, you haven't told me your name, Luo Sha said with a smile. Luli thought about it and said seriously, my nickname is Lu Gotta Massacre. My real name is Luli. And all right. Luo Sha waved his hand and flew away. He said, my friend, the martial world is a long journey. See you later. Luli watched Luo Sha disappear into the distance and frowned. Was it right or wrong to save Luo Sha? Luo Sha's strength had been restored. This was like letting a tiger back to the mountain. Who knew if something bad would happen? Let's go. Luli shook his head. He didn't want to dwell on it. He flew back to the team. Yellow Tooth asked at once, Fourth brother Lu, are you protected this time? No. Luli smiled bitterly. The other teams laughed as well. Luli was dreaming if he wanted to find treasures in a pile of corpses. Let's go. Yellow Tooth waved his hand, and the team moved on. Luli patrolled for half a day and then went back up. Luli asked for leave for half a year at once. This time, he would not come out until he had mastered the Boulder Dragon. Time flew when he was cultivating. Luli had been in closed-door cultivation for more than 3 months, and he finally made some progress with the dragon wrestling skill. But today, he was woken up. When he opened the door, he saw a panic-stricken face. Boss, the captives are rioting. As soon as third brother Ho came in, he grabbed Lu Li's hand and said, we have to run or we will all die. Chapter 2179. What Luli was most worried about finally happened. Even though 1,000 warriors were mobilized, they could not stop the captives from rioting. The captives had been plotting for a long time. Finally, they succeeded with an opportunity. That opportunity was Luo Sha. That was to say, Luli had something to do with the captives rioting. Of course, it was not entirely Lu Li's fault. If Luo Sha had been hiding among the corpses for a month without being discovered, then something would still have happened. Luo Sha was one of the leaders of the captives in the first place. He secretly communicated with a group of people in secret, instantly killing 2 squads and rescuing a few powerful captives. After that, the rest of the matter was simple. Luo Sha rescued several powerful captives and then used a secret skill to restore some of their abilities. They killed their way underground, killed all the warriors, took their interspatial rings, and recovered with pellets. They also rescued thousands of captives from the pyrolite mines. A single spark had started a prairie fire. The majority of the troops charged out. A few experts surrounded Elder Xie, while the rest attacked the troops. There were also people who went to rescue more prisoners of war. When all the captives could recover some of their abilities, they could kill the entire army. It was a dangerous situation. Patriarch Xie was surrounded by Luo Sha and several others. Momo was under attack as well. The army had the upper hand, but there were too many captives, tens of thousands of them. As a prisoner of war was quickly rescued, many people swallowed elixirs, cultivated a bit of divine power, and immediately joined the battle. They were wounded and their abilities were less than 20 to 30% of what they used to be. But they were not afraid of death. They attacked the army with numbers. If they could not escape, they would die. But they could escape as long as they could kill the army. None of the captives were afraid of death. Even if they were going to die, they would drag a warrior with them. The warriors had been mistreating them for years. Their hatred was deep-rooted. The battle outside was fierce, but it had not spread to here yet. Ho San sneaked over, trying to find Lu Li to run with him. Run? How can we run? Lu Li said bitterly, there's a seal on the valley. Without opening the seal, nobody can get out. I think the teleportation formation has been destroyed. Where can we go even if we run? Yes. Ho San patted his head and came to his senses. He said with a sad face, then what do we do now, boss? Go out and fight the captives with the army? Don't worry. Luli used the trace of Tao to sense the situation outside. His perception was so strong that he could sense the situation in the valley clearly. After pondering for a moment, he said, "Now that the prisoners of war and the army are tied, let's wait and see first. Don't go out. If we hide in a spatial god artifact, even if someone discovers us, they won't attack us first." Luli took out the wicked bead and put host San in. Then he left as well. He turned the wicked bead into a pebble in a corner. This kind of small trick couldn't be hidden from others. As long as an expert came over to investigate, they would be easily discovered. But right now, there was a chaotic battle going on everywhere. Even if they found out, they wouldn't care. In any case, no matter which side won, they would be dealt with eventually. Luli was also aware of this situation. If the captives won, they would definitely come after them. If the army won, they would not be able to escape military law. However, it was even more dangerous to go out now. If they were not careful, they could be killed. In his heart, he did not have any sense of belonging to the Hell Palace. He only treated this place as a place to stay. Naturally, he would not risk his life for the Hell Palace. He was waiting. When the army was defeated, the higher-ups of the army might open the seal and let the army escape. That would be their chance. As long as they could escape from the valley, their chances of survival would be greater. Luli treated the captives well. He never scolded or beat them. So did host San. However, there were so many captives. Who would know him? In such a chaotic situation, once they went out and started a fight, they would be targeted. Even in the wicked bead, Luli could still sense what was going on outside. The trace of the great path was so powerful that Luli felt he had become one with heaven and earth. He could see clearly what was going on around him. As time passed, the battle outside began to pour towards the captives. As more and more prisoners of war were rescued, more prisoners of war were recovering their combat strength as time passed. In addition, the number of soldiers was too small. Patriarch Xie was strong. He was fighting against 6 people, all at the 4th tribulation. It was a pity that the 5 of them had not recovered to their prime, or else Patriarch Xie would have died. Luo Sha was strong as well. He was supporting Patriarch Xie's attacks almost all by himself, while the other 5 were distracting him. As time went on, the 5 were recovering. Patriarch Xie might not be able to hold on any longer and would be killed. Why hasn't the seal been opened? At this rate, the entire army will be wiped out. Luli was getting anxious. 700 to 800 warriors had died, and more captives were coming. When would they run away if not now? Was Momo waiting for reinforcements from the nearby cities? By the looks of it, if the reinforcements did not come in an hour, all of them would perish. Reinforcements had to be mobilized, and it would take time for them to travel. How could they arrive so soon? Unless a few powerhouses came here first, they would not be able to do so. Why haven't the powerful warriors from the city come? Did they not receive the message? Luli was confused. Theoretically speaking, Momo should have sent for reinforcements as soon as the riot broke out. It had been an hour, and none of the reinforcements had arrived. Didn't they say that the city was nearby? Luli could not figure it out, and neither could Momo. He kept looking at a place in the valley where there was a signal station. If the signal station was lit up, it meant that reinforcements had arrived. He didn't open the seal because he was waiting for reinforcements. As long as the reinforcements arrived, none of the captives would be able to run away. In that case, he would not be so guilty. If he opened the seal and let the captives run away, it would be a disaster. By then, he would not be able to escape death. But the thing was, if the reinforcements didn't come, he would die right away. He had no family. What was the difference between dying now and dying later? I will wait for the time for 1 incense stick to burn. Momo said to himself. If the reinforcements didn't come, he would have to face the Hell Palace. By then, he could run away with the captives and get out of the Devil's Sea. Given his abilities, he could survive anywhere. Boom! In less than the time for 1 incense stick to burn, Momo was smashed away after the time for half an incense stick to burn. Many bones in his chest were broken. Looking at the more than a dozen captives coming after him and the unforgettable hatred in their eyes, Momo was scared. He dashed into a castle. Then the castle exploded. The patterns on the valley began to tremble as well. Momo dashed up to the sky in a blur. Run! The remaining warriors were not idiots. What was the point of staying here when Momo had run away? Only death awaited them if they stayed. Countless soldiers soared into the sky and fled outside. Alas, Patriarch Xie sighed. What was the point of him staying when everyone had run away? He was old, but he didn't want to die. After he forced Luo Sha and the others to retreat, he flew up to the sky. Let's go. Luli had been observing the situation in the wicked bead. As soon as Momo ran away, Luli dashed out. He spread out his dragon wings and flew up at a horrifying speed. Charge! Chapter 2180. There was a big city near the valley. It was the second largest city on the Hell Island, the city of Yama. There were many powerful warriors in the city. It was the gateway to the south of the Hell Island. Naturally, there were many powerful warriors guarding it. It was not that the city didn't receive Momo's message. It was just that the powerful warriors in the city were not in the city at the moment. They had gone out of the island. A demon had come to the island and was slaughtering outside. The powerful warriors in the city had gone to hunt him down. The demon didn't come by chance. Luo Sha and the others secretly sent a signal to call him over. The demon was the brother of one of the powerful warriors. Luo Sha and the others bribed a soldier to contact the demon. All of this was coordinated. Luo Sha and the others knew very well that if the powerful warriors in the city of Yama were not sent away, none of them would be able to escape. Once they were in a mess, the powerful warriors in the city would go after them as fast as they could. Their teamwork was very good, and they successfully escaped from the heavens. The powerful warriors in the city were all outside the island. They could kill and run at will. After being mistreated for so long, the soldiers had all gone mad after escaping from the prison. Many of them didn't want to leave the island at once. Instead, they wanted to go after the warriors. The warriors tortured them every day in all kinds of ways, making them miserable and miserable. Now that they had turned the tables, they swore they would not stop until they killed all of them. Tens of thousands of people chased after more than 1,000 people, but it was very difficult to catch up. This was because the soldiers' battle prowess was at their peak, while the prisoners of war could only display 30% to 50% of their battle prowess. Many people could not even display 10% of their battle prowess. Only the 6 Fourth Tribulation warriors could catch up. After all, they were Fourth Tribulation warriors. Instead of going after Patriarch Xie, they went after the warriors. They used to be influential figures, but they were tortured by the warriors. They were even forced to drink urine. How could they stand it? Patriarch Xie had run away. They didn't go after him. They just went after the warriors. Luli was fast. With the dragon wings and the unfettered steps, he could be as fast as a Fourth Tribulation warrior. But it was because he was fast that he caught the attention of a Fourth Tribulation warrior. That Fourth Tribulation warrior slaughtered dozens of people and attacked him once, but he successfully dodged it. This angered the Fourth Tribulation warrior. That person turned into a white light and chased after him with all his might. This man must have been at the middle stage of the Fourth Tribulation. Even though he had not recovered to his prime, he was as fast as Luli. The two of them flew away in a blur, one after the other. Luli was flying toward the southwest. He was going to the sea. He was a deserter in the prison camp and would probably be investigated afterwards. Since that was the case, he might as well leave the underworld palace. There were so many factions in Rakshasa Sea. He could just randomly find a faction to join. There was no need to hang himself on a tree. He did not want his fate to be controlled by the people of Hell Palace. Xiao. More and more rays of light came after him at a high speed. If it were not for the fact that Luli had strong senses, he would have been hit many times. Luli moved gracefully from side to side and moved forward quickly. The attacks from behind never hit him. The one chasing after him was an old man. At this moment, his body was covered in wounds and blood. He looked very miserable, and his face was filled with rage. How could he not kill Luli, a warrior of the Second Tribulation realm? If people knew about this, he would be too ashamed to show his face in public. Therefore, he had his eyes on Lu Li. He didn't care about the other escorts and just kept chasing after Lu Li. He swore that he would not stop until he caught up with Lu Li. Lu Li was troubled. This man was chasing after him like a mad dog. What would he do? Should he go back and fight with this man? Killing this man would not do him any good. This man had nothing on him. He didn't even have a weapon, let alone treasures. He was chasing after Lu Li with his bare hands. As time went on, Lu Li's headache grew. This man was taking pellets, and his abilities were recovering. His speed was getting faster as well. Lu Li was afraid that Lu Li would catch up with him. After flying for an hour, Lu Li could finally see the sea area in the distance. Lu Li was relieved. This man wouldn't go out to sea after him, would he? Lu Li was overthinking. After he flew out of the sea area, that man had caught up with him. Clearly, he would not stop until he killed Lu Li. Actually, Lu Li was wrong. This man was going out to sea as well. It would be safer for him to go out to sea. Of course, this man would chase after Lu Li. Something is not right. Soon, Lu Li figured it out. He saw that this man was taking pellets. Those pellets must have been taken from warriors. At this rate, Lu Li would be hunted down. He could not kill a warrior at the middle stage of the fourth tribulation unless he used the divine iron at the very beginning. Go back. Lu Li made up his mind and went back to the Hell Island. He believed that warriors and powerful warriors of the Hell Island must have taken action. This man wouldn't go after him anymore. *T. Lu Li took a detour and flew back to the island. That man was still chasing after him. Lu Li was dumbfounded. Was this man out of his mind? Did he have to kill Lu Li to vent his anger? Whoosh! Several streaks of Xian Qi came. Since the distance between them was shortened, Lu Li could not dodge anymore. He was smashed away. Fortunately, this man's strength had not recovered yet. Lu Li's body was strong enough. His dragon wings were broken and his back was bleeding. But he was not seriously injured. What? That warrior at the fourth tribulation was shocked. He had thought that Lu Li would be seriously injured if he could land an attack on him. He didn't expect that Lu Li was only slightly injured. You are cultivating a supreme body. The warrior at the fourth tribulation was taken aback. Then he went after Lu Li. Now that Lu Li was injured, he could kill Lu Li after a few more attacks. He did not want to give up after such a long time. What was more, his abilities were recovering. Even if powerful warriors from the Hell Palace were here, he still had a chance to run away. Boom, boom, boom. Lu Li was bleeding from the continuous attacks. His wings were broken several times, and he was getting weaker. If this went on, he would die for sure. Fight! Lu Li made up his mind. If he could not run away, then he had to fight. This man was at the fourth tribulation, but Lu Li still had a chance to kill him. Lu Li took out the cauldron of 1,000 transformations and transformed it into a saber. The worms of the void flew out as well. The interspatial ring on his other hand glowed. He was ready to take out the divine iron at any time and fight to the death. Whoosh! Right at that moment, Lu Li heard a noise coming from the distance. Then a battleship came. Several psychic powers came and locked onto Lu Li at once. The army of the Hell Palace is here. Lu Li relaxed after checking with psychic power. The army of the Hell Palace was here. He didn't have to risk his life anymore. That being said, he could not leave now. He would be brought back for questioning. After all, he was a deserter. Run. That warrior at the fourth tribulation sensed the battleship. He sensed some powerful chi and energy in the battleship. He fled into the distance in a blur. Don't even think about running away. A pretty lady's voice was heard. Then, a pretty lady flew out from one of the battleships with 2 old men. They chased after that warrior like a gust of wind. Chapter 2181. Sui Wachin, don't push me too far. I will kill you even at the cost of my life. You must have what it takes. From a distance came 2 shouts. Lu Li was not sure at first, but now he knew. This lady was the goddess of the Hell Palace. But he didn't know that she was different from the other young ladies. She would go after the captives and fight on the front line. They had flown away. A warrior flew down from the battleship, grabbed Lu Li up, and brought him to the battleship. Luli did not fight back. It was not that he didn't have the strength to run away, but to fight against the army would make him a wanted criminal of the Hell Palace. There were more than a dozen warriors at the peak of the third tribulation on the battleship. Luli was not confident. He was brought to the battleship. A leader in general's armor looked at him and asked coldly, "Which troop are you from? Why are you being hunted down by yourself?" Luli took out the wicked bead and let Ho-san out. He had already told Ho-san everything. They bowed. Luli replied, "Lord, we are from the captive camp. The captives rioted and many of us were killed. In the end, we couldn't stand it anymore. Leader Mo ran away, and so did our team leader. It was better for him to die than for himself. Momo must have escaped to the sea even if he didn't die. If he dared to open the seal and let the captives escape, the Hell Palace would punish him. He would not stay at the Hell Island. Naturally, Luli would put the blame on Momo. He was just a small soldier. The important figures of the Hell Palace wouldn't make things difficult for him, would they? "Momo, you good for nothing." That leader snorted. He waved his hand and left them alone. A warrior showed them to a cabin at the back, gave them some healing pellets, and said, "Stay here and don't move around. If you offend the goddess, you won't even know how you died." Yes, yes. Lu Li and Ho-san nodded. This was a small room, narrow, but it was enough for two people. Lu Li activated the inhibition formation in the room. Ho-san asked with concern, "Boss, are you okay?" "It's just a scratch. I will be fine after some rest." Luli waved his hand and said, "Stay here and don't go out. I need to tend to my wounds. We will see when we get back to the Yama City." Ho-san sighed bitterly. Although they weren't the ones to blame for this, with so many prisoners of war escaping, the higher-ups would definitely vent their anger on them. Even if he wasn't severely punished, at the very least, he wouldn't have a good ending. If a big shot was dissatisfied, they would all be sent to an even more difficult place to do hard labor. At first, he thought he could achieve something by coming to the Hell Palace with Luli. Little did he expect that he was getting worse and worse. He was not even as good as the small force he used to be. Luli didn't want to expose his abilities. He just wanted to cultivate in a low-key manner. Otherwise, with his abilities, it would be too easy for him to become a team leader or a commander. He could live a comfortable life by following Luli. "I hope I won't be banished when I return to Yama City this time." Ho-san prayed to himself. He looked at Luli and sat down with his legs crossed. Luli noticed Ho-san's worry, but he didn't think too much about it. If there was no need, he would definitely not reveal too much of his strength. He didn't plan to stay in the Hell Palace for the rest of his life. He just wanted to lie low and wait for the right time to leave. There was still no news of Qinzhan and Ganlin. Was the pure heaven blood eagle race after him? He knew nothing about the current situation. All he wanted to do was to master the dragon wrestle as soon as possible, and then he could leave the Sea of Demons after his abilities improved. After swallowing a healing pill, he didn't think about anything else. He recuperated while comprehending the dragon wrestling art. Soon, for hours passed. Sui Wechin still hadn't come back. A team leader on the ship was getting impatient. He had sent out several people to look for her. Sui Wechin didn't come because of the riot in the prisoner camp. She just happened to be in the Yama City. She heard that there was a riot in the prisoner camp, so she came out immediately. This time, Sui Wechin didn't bring too many people with her. After all, she was coming to Yama City. The war had come to an end, and the Hell Island was relatively safe. What was more, there were many powerful warriors in the Yama City. Therefore, Sui Wechin only brought 2 Fourth Tribulation warriors with her this time. Moreover, they were not very strong Fourth Tribulation warriors. If something really happened, everyone would probably die. Report. Another hour later, a scout came back and shouted from the distance, "Immortal Lady is found." Something is wrong. The 2 team leaders were killed. Immortal Lady is being hunted. What? The more than 100 people on the battleship were frightened. That was the Immortal Lady, one of the most important figures in the Hell Palace. She was the granddaughter of the palace master. If she were to die here, all of them, including their families, would die. "Show me the way." The team leader controlled the battleship to fly away. Luli sensed it through the mark of Tao. Luli put on a bitter expression. He thought he could go to the Yama city to accept the punishment and be done with it. He didn't expect that something would go wrong again. The immortal lady was honorable. If anything happened to Suyuechin, they would all be implicated and killed. If Suyuechin is dead, then we must get out of the Hell Island at once. Luli made up his mind. If something went wrong, they must run. Once Suyuechin died, the entire Hell Palace would be turned upside down. They would not be able to survive. The war at the Sea of Demons would start again. What was wrong with the immortal lady? Why did she have to run? She didn't know about the captives' riot. She didn't know that there were powerful Fourth Tribulation warriors among them. The battleship flew on quickly. In the time for 2 incense sticks to burn, Luli found Suyuechin with psychic power. She was being chased by 3 Fourth Tribulation warriors. No wonder. Luli checked and understood. One of the 3 was Luo Sha. The other one was chasing after him, and the other one was a Fourth Tribulation warrior. All of them were captives. Luo Sha's abilities had been restored to the peak. The other 2 had recovered as well. The 2 Fourth Tribulation warriors with Suyuechin were not powerful. It was not surprising that they were killed. Suyuechin had treasures with her. Otherwise, she would have been killed. Luo Sha and the others looked at Suyuechin with hostility. If it weren't for Suyuechin, the war wouldn't have happened. So many people wouldn't have died, and they wouldn't have been captured. They and the Hell Palace were sworn enemies. Naturally, they were not afraid of revenge from the Hell Palace. If they could kill Suyuechin, it would be the same as avenging those who had died. They could also vent their anger. An old man looked at Suyuechin in a special way. Clearly, he wanted to take Suyuechin down. He wanted to take the body of Stars and Luna for himself and play with it. Not only could he enjoy the best, but he could also learn a powerful fundamental principle. Luli had no interest in the body of Stars and Luna. He was thinking about how to run away. Suyuechin had treasures, but she was no match for Luo Sha and the other 2. There were more than 100 warriors on their side, and they were all Third Tribulation warriors. Some of them were at the peak of the Third Tribulation, but they could not change the overall situation. Any Fourth Tribulation warrior could kill all of them. Chapter 2182. Admittedly, Suyuechin was quite capable. Of course, the treasure she had played a big part in this. She was wearing a white dress, which was clearly a piece of treasure. Every time Luo Sha and the others attacked, the dress would deflect some of the force. She had a red bow in her hand. Every time she shot an arrow, the arrows would chase after Luo Sha and the others like beasts. She had super defensive treasures and powerful offensive treasures. Suyuechin herself was a Fourth Tribulation martial artist who had comprehended a few powerful true meanings. It was very difficult to take down or kill her in a short period of time. There was blood on the corner of her mouth. She must have been injured. Her face was pale as well. She seemed to be in need of love. Her eyes were filled with anger. She looked like an enraged lioness. Suyuechin was beautiful. There was something unique about her that made people want to hold her in their arms and love her. Her nose was tall, which gave her a sexy look. She had the legendary body of Stars and Moon. There seemed to be a mysterious veil covering her, which made her even more alluring. She was tall and could have anything she wanted. Suyuechin was flawless. No wonder the palace of Rakshasa's divine son could not help but force himself on her. Luli, on the other hand, did not have a good impression of this immortal lady. The pride in her bones made him uncomfortable. Maybe it was because she had been living like a princess for many years and had a distinguished identity, but she had developed a condescending character. Even when she was being attacked by several people, her eyes were still sharp. It seemed that she could fight against 3 people on her own. Move, stop the 3 rebels, and save the immortal lady. The leader on the battleship shouted. Everyone rushed out except for Lu Li and Ho San. Luli was not working for the Hell Ministry. This immortal lady had nothing to do with him. Why would he risk his life? What was more, he could not do that. Luo Sha had a deal with him, and he was sort of friend. How could he fight against Luo Sha? If Luo Sha was enraged, he would die as well. Buzzing, Luli put Ho's sand into the wicked bead and then flew out. Without hesitation, he fled into the distance. Luli's escape did not attract the attention of those warriors, but he could not escape the detection of Luo Sha and the others. Sui Waqin noticed it as well. A glint of coldness appeared on her pretty face. She memorized Luli's look. Luo Sha and the others didn't go after Luli. Since Luo Sha had recognized Luli, he wouldn't go after him. A warrior of the Fourth Tribulation would not care about Luli, a warrior of the Second Tribulation, when he saw so many people coming. The other one had been chasing after Luli for a long time. Even though he wanted to tear Luli into pieces, he couldn't care less when so many people were coming. Goddess, leave quickly. The leader's eyes flashed with determination as he roared. A few peak Third Tribulation cultivators also shouted, "Goddess, let's go!" Sui Waqin was not stupid. Although she was very conceited, she knew that she was no match for these three people. If she stayed, she would probably be killed or captured by the three of them. She let a long howl and shot 3 arrows in a row. Then, she soared into the sky and fled into the distance. "Humph! You want to run?" Luo Sha sneered. A phantom of a beast appeared behind him. The phantom of the beast roared and shook the surroundings. The beast flew up and disappeared in midair. Roar! A sky-shaking roar rang out. Next, the silhouette of an exotic beast appeared behind Sui Waqin. The exotic beast swiped out with its claws, sending Sui Waqin flying. PFF, Sui Waqin spat out some blood. Her pretty face was completely pale, without a trace of blood. She was still trembling in midair. The strike was powerful, and she was seriously injured. "Goddess!" That commander roared and madly attacked Luo Sha. Sui Waqin turned her head and glared hatefully at him before turning into a beam of white light and flying away. "Huh? You think you can stop us?" Luo Sha put on a mocking expression. The three of them were filled with killing intent. They released powerful attacks and killed the more than 100 warriors as if they were chopping melons. In the time for one incense stick to burn, more than 100 warriors had become corpses. Luo Sha looked at the other two and said, "Xia, what will we do next? Go out to sea or continue killing?" "I want to go out to sea." He shook his head and said, "Their goddess is here. I think a large group of powerful warriors will come to help soon. Since we didn't kill them just now, there's no need to go after them." Luo Sha nodded slightly. Killing a goddess could help him vent his anger, but it was not worth it if he lost his life. If they didn't leave now, they might not be able to leave again. Xia, the one who chased after Lu Li, sneered and said, "If you don't go after them, I will. I want to have a taste of the body of stars and moon. If I can learn a powerful, fundamental principle, I, Xia Tiancheng, will be rich." "Xia, the body of stars and moon is only a legend." Luo Sha sighed and said, "I don't think you should take the risk." "Who said it is a legend?" Xia Tiancheng's eyes were filled with passion, and he said, "I feel that this girl is different. She has a unique qi and energy. There is no smoke without fire. Maybe she really has the body of stars and moon, and it will be useful. I want to try." "All right, you could go now." Luo Sha and he looked at each other. Luo Sha thought about it and said, "Xia, I advise you to finish this in 2 hours. If you cannot take down Sui Waqin, run. If you don't run after 2 hours, you will die for sure." "Okay." Xia Tianqing nodded. He glanced at the two unruly and said, "You go out to sea and wait for me. If I succeed, I will become the most powerful warrior of the Rakshasa Sea. By then, you will follow me to destroy the Hell Palace and replace them." Swish! Xia Tianqing transformed into a beam of white light and flew away. Luo Sha and Lao He both revealed helpless expressions. From her point of view, Lao Xia was somewhat possessed. This time, he might not be able to return. Xia Tianqing had only recovered half of his strength. Even though Sui Waqin was badly injured, it would be hard for him to take her down with all the treasure she had. If they fought for a while longer and the powerful warriors of the Hell Palace came, he would die without a burial place. "Let's go." Since Xia Chan had made up his mind, they couldn't persuade him any further. The two of them turned into a streak of white light and rushed towards the seaside, quickly disappearing into the distant horizon. Xia Tianqing was fast. Sui Weqin had a head start for the time for one incense stick to burn, but she was so badly injured that she was slowed down. Xia Tianqing had been trying to take her down. He had implanted a trace of divine energy in her. Therefore, Xia Tianqing could track her down easily. Bastard! Sui Weqin was about to rest in a small mountain to tend to her wounds when she heard some noises behind her. She was taken aback. She shouted, "Bastard! The powerful warriors of my race will be here soon. If you dare to keep going, I will make sure you die." Ha ha ha! Xia Tianqing laughed. His laughter was filled with joy. He said in a voice that made Su Yueqin's hair stand on end, "Pretty, come to your grandpa. Your grandpa will love you." At 300 miles away, in a mountain, Lu Li was hiding in the wicked bead. Hearing the shouts, Lu Li put on a bitter smile. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.